Hey everyone, we're live. Thank you for coming and watching our digital inking run through with Jimmy Reyes. He's going to be inking the Moon Knight picture. It's actually the thumbnail for this stream, and it was the last Monday Night Draw. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that. And I see everyone's here. We got JDSCT here. Henry Jeremick is here. He was talking about Ricardo, my favorite. F1 driver smashing into science, obviously. Henry likes science maybe a little bit more. You know what? I didn't think that was great either. But yeah, Russ Hicks is here. Lance DeBoy is here. Tom McCart is here. So yeah, it's great. Mikhail Church is here. Good to see everybody. We right now are waiting for Jimmy to get home. So we were originally going to be 8 o'clock. And I didn't consult with Jimmy like a moron. I think we mentioned the time last week, whatever. Anyway, point being, he had to drive his wife. And so he is almost home. I just gave him a call and he said he would be home actually now. So I'm sure, home. He was on his street when I called about 9 minutes ago. And he's setting up an extra monitor and he'll be with us in just a minute. So basically, we're just going to be talking for the next few minutes. I would fake it somehow, but yeah, I got nothing. And I don't digitally ink. So yeah, apologize for the delay. What I didn't want to do is just not start the live stream and have you guys wonder what's going on. So I figured we'd be better off, at least getting started. So thank you so much to Eric for co-hosting tonight. And Eric's got his Moon Knight shirt, which is very cool.
Yep, I'm representing tonight. This is actually David's Moon Knight. Can half stand up, but
yeah, it's from a cover from
yeah,
I guess 2 years ago now.
Sold at the comic shop and had to get it.
Yeah. And I see, Henry says R.I.P. Neal Adams. Yeah, absolutely. That was, Meredith said that he had passed away. And I said, no, there's no way. Because he just posted on Instagram a picture of him drawing something a couple of days before. And he said, apologize for the bruises on my hands. He's just getting over an illness. And I thought, well, he looks like he's definitely going through something, but I thought, well, he's fine. He's going to pull through it. And yeah, it was pretty devastating. I didn't know him really, really well, but pretty well. And I saw him at a lot of conventions. We had a lot of time to, spend to talk. And, I've had dinners with him, with, other people. And he was, one of the biggest legends in the business of all time. And Jimmy is here. So he's still blank, though. This happened last time. Remember we had Jimmy on Monday advertise this? I had a blank square. That's what I'm looking at right now. So, yeah. We need the Jeopardy music. I'm out of stuff to say. Oh, he's here. Good. We're bailed out. Here we go. I'm bringing him in.
Hey, wow. I feel like we're like an 80s boy band or like anime superheroes, Got to do my pose.
Yeah. And the bottom of my screen, I was just saying to Eric that I'm having so many camera issues. The bottom of my screen's all pixelated, but apparently it's my shirt. If I get rid of the shirt,
it's on the black collar too.
Yeah, see, kind of. Anyway, yeah. So you're basically set up.
I'm just gonna switch over my monitor. I thought I'd do something a little different for everyone.
Okay.
And show my entire screen, which I never do. I just gotta remember how to do that.
Yep. Obstacles Art says R.I.P. to a master. Russ Hicks says Neal Adams was so much fun to talk to. I saw some other comments for Neal in there too, and yeah, it was.
Oh, that's right.
Tough one.
Man, does anyone know how Neal Adams died, or
sepsis? It was ultimately sepsis, and I don't know as a result of what, but he was fairly old, and yeah.
I never really thought of Neal Adams as being old. I just
never really. Yeah, I mean, he was active right up to the end, working to the end. Yeah, he seemed like he was going to go forever. So,
yeah, that's the thing. Artists were men, and I think I take a lot of my favorite artists for granted.
Mhm.
That's why I got you a gym membership, Dave, for your birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh.
It's probably good. I appreciate it. You know what? I think, I remember 10 years ago losing so many artists of kind of the previous generation, and losing Neal Adams just feels like it's as time goes on, nobody lives forever, and it's
He was so active. Pretty much every convention I went to here, he was there, drawing and interacting with the fans. It's that was definitely hard to take in.
It was. Lance Boy says, Dave, any chance you'll be stopping by Motor City Comic Con next weekend? As far as I know, I'm not at that one, unfortunately. Actually, I do know. I'm saying as far as I know, I'm not at that one, unfortunately. So, no, sorry, Lance.
Did you have you talked yet about your experience this what was it, Monday?
Tuesday night. Oh, right.
Tuesday
By
night.
the way, my background, I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm sure nobody even really notices the difference, but it's completely dark. And that is because my extension cords, I don't have plugs back there. So I had extension cords. Anyway, the basement flooded. I got back from LA Tuesday night at 10:30 and 11:30. I got back at 11:30, and Meredith and the kids were already down there in the basement, and went down here in the basement, cleaning out the water for an hour. It took us about another hour and a half. It was a nightmare. We actually have one of those big, trash things, the big ones. Anyway, we have a lot of stuff that unfortunately is going to go into it. None of my art got damaged, thankfully, and none of the books that I really value, because they're already up on shelves.
The big trash thing, Dave. If you're using those technical terms like that, you're going to lose people. They don't. Not everyone's,
Man on a Boot 69 says, "Bro, is David a cancer patient?" No, I'm not a cancer patient. I've been bald my whole life.
Well, here it is. This is how I changed it over here. I couldn't find the name, but I was a cancer patient. I'm a cancer survivor.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I was bald, and I got made fun of all the time. My dad's solution was put Jimmy in boxing. That'll fix it.
There you go. We have more in common than I thought. I knew you had cancer. I did not know that you were bald when you were a kid. It is tough. Like, really, I never think about it now, at all. But when I was a kid, it was definitely not the most fun. I swear, all of us in comics, we have some kind of, not horrible trauma. I don't want to get crazy, but some kind of feeling like you don't quite fit in, and so you relate with superheroes, and you relate with that kind of, being able to turn into someone powerful. It's pretty common.
Yeah, I actually didn't discover comics. I think you're the same, Dave. You discovered comics pretty late.
I did.
Yeah. Same time I did, I think.
One Furious Fox says, I just got my cancer-free diagnosis. Well, congratulations for that. That is great.
Oh, wow. Man, that is really it for me. It took I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old. It didn't clear me until I was about 18, around there. It took a long time before they finally said, okay, and there's no chance of it coming back,
Yeah. Pillowbox 34 says, wow, praise God, you are cancer-free. Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
So we're almost set up here.
Yeah. I'm moving my monitor around, and boy, it's a lot of work to just for just a simple thing here.
This all could be like set up beforehand, hours and hours before. Not whatever. Just saying.
No, it should have been, but Anna and I are new homeowners. We just bought a new home. With it comes so much great responsibility, with that great power.
Yeah, with big house comes great responsibility.
With big house comes big responsibility. So I was outside trimming trees. I'm still shiny and everything here. All right, Let's see. How do I share my screen? I forgot how to use this. Sharing screen, 2 monitors. All right, I get to pick my monitor. Neat. All right. We can go ahead and show that one.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, so I was cutting grass, but I think hopefully it's worth the wait that we're going to do here today, because I've never shown everybody my entire desktop. So this is my entire desktop. You can get to see even my apps and everything down here. I didn't realize
you have every single thing on your computer along the bottom.
Yeah.
I recognize some of those, but wow.
Yeah, and actually I can move this too, so it's not so distracting, but
no, it's fine.
It doesn't really matter, I guess.
Don't worry about it. Stop. Let's just get started. Let's go.
All right. So yeah, we got to get rolling. So if people are wondering here, I'm using a program called Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint, they're not a sponsor, unfortunately. I wish they were, but and it's not the only way to do this. So I'm going to just show my approach, my way that I do this. And Clip Studio Paint, the reason that I stay with it and use it is because it does so much that, everything that we need, especially high quality art, David Finch art, it gets it gets the best inkers out there, and somehow I conned my way into Dave's world. And
well, you did it, by being one of the best inkers out there. And by the way, and you're saying this is one way to do it, and that's absolutely true. There are a lot of different ways to ink comics. The reason why I was really excited about having you do this is because you were one of the very few, I really can't think of too many at all, that are able to ink in really what is a traditional kind of image comics style. Not just image, it's, it has a long history before that too, but the style for me is image comics, because that's where I came in. Scott Williams was like the big inker at the time. So when I think of that kind of inking, I was pigeonholed it right there. So apologies for that, Jimmy, but it really is that kind of traditional brush. So or not a hunt, that's the quill. What's the brush?
The Kalinsky Sable. So it can
yeah.
Could be a Winsor Newton Series 7, or it could be a Raphael 8404.
Right, which is actually what Scott Williams uses, is a Raphael
8404. Yeah. And basically, the 8404 just means it's the series, it's the length of the handle.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And so he uses...
And the quill is a Hunt Mapping Point 102. Is that really what you emulated, or?
Yes. Yeah. Because I prefer the 102 over the G pen, because neither of these pens are actually literally flexible, but they're flexible in the amount of lines that they can give you and the control you can really get out of it. And so I think you can manipulate a 102 a little more than you could a G pen. So I've always stuck with.
I definitely found a G pen, you get great detail, but it is difficult getting a thicker line. Like it feels much more like you're scratching into the picture. I never got as comfortable with it.
Yeah, I love to get little hairlines and really fine little line work in the art, because I find that if I can put in this little extra little details and fine stuff, even though it's reduced down 67%, it still adds just like a little extra, crisp look, or just looks a little more detailed when I double my lines here and there.
Yes.
And so I couldn't get that with a G pen.
And I want to mention also that in the description for the video, we have a link to Jimmy's brushes. He's got a full set of brushes that he uses. So everything that you see here, you can find. It's at a very reasonable price. I think you've got it priced two different ways, right? You've got it with a bunch of tutorial stuff, and then just the brushes on their own. So
yes. I mean, I'm not in the business of making brushes and stuff. These are brushes that I made and designed for my print work. And at the time when I designed these, my print work was over you. So it had to be high quality stuff, and I wanted to go from traditional. At the time I was inking you traditionally, I wanted to go digital, and it took forever to get that brush to the point where I could actually use it. I think the first time I used it over your work was maybe on Radiant Black.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
It's a little while ago. Now, I have to say, I have done digital inking, and I have used Clip Studio. That's what I was using to do it. It's a long time ago now. I think it was around 2013 or so that I was really doing that a lot.
Yeah.
And I stopped because I could not get the brushes to work in a way that I felt like was working with my style. So I gave it up, and I do think a lot that I'd like to give it another try. So I'm personally I'm
Yeah.
just really interested in seeing how you do it, and also digital inking is really, this is the way things are now. It's really more what's expected, um, in the industry. So I think a really solid tutorial from someone that knows how to do this in a great
Yeah.
way is going to be good. So what are you going to use to start?
Well, what I do, the reason I'm sharing my whole screen now, as I've never done even on my live streams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show in the far bottom right corner, which I forgot how to turn on my little pointer because it's been so long since since I've done a live stream. But if you look at the bottom right corner, I'm kind of moving the mouse down here, and I'm gonna click. You can see where it says paper. In the middle is the artwork I've imported. The artwork.
Okay.
I've adjusted your artwork in Photoshop, but you don't even have to when you're in Clip. I just cleaned it up a little bit just so we didn't have any of the distracting blue line borders on your original artboard. Which,
And
by the,
I
which
just
by
want
the,
to say, sorry.
no, go ahead.
How did you get rid of the blue line?
Oh yeah, well, in Photoshop, it's really simple. You just go to Image, Adjust, Black and White, and you bring down the cyan.
Yeah.
That's it. And you
Well,
just
it's
save it.
actually, it's funny. It's bringing up the cyan because it starts at 0.
Oh,
You bring it
no,
up,
right. It is bringing up the cyan.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
so yeah, you just bring that slider across and it kills it. It's the easiest
Yeah.
thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I don't know why I say down because
Well, because you're getting rid of it, but yeah.
yeah, but you're right. You're bringing up the cyan. That's what's happening, and it's that simple. And then you just save the file, and I mean, there's nothing to it. But the only reason I did that was I didn't want it to be distracting. But I don't know if you've realized that this your Moon Knight drawing here is the first time I'm inking you. Well, not really the first time I'm inking you. I inked you not too long ago, but the first time I ever inked you was on Power Rangers. And you drew, so this is a little thing out there for your viewers to see that you actually drew on the artboard upside down. Like you just.
I did it on this one too, didn't I?
Yes, you
I
did
think
on
I
this one.
remember. Yeah.
And I didn't notice it on your live stream because you're zoomed in and I
Right.
couldn't tell. And when I see the your artwork, I was like, oh my God, this thing is, you drew it just like the Power Rangers. And
Yeah.
you did the same thing to the Charlie's Angels.
Really, it's like luck of the draw. So
Yeah.
okay, so now it's blue. How did that happen?
Yeah, so right here on the bottom right corner in Clip Studio Paint, there is a little, just a little button right there. And there's several ways of doing this. This is the easiest. It's an icon, and I don't read. I just like using pictures. So I click on that. Then what I'm going to do next is, because I don't want to ink on this layer, I want to put, like in the old days when we would do practice inks, we put vellum, a layer of vellum over the original artwork.
Right.
And ink on vellum. That's really old. I mean,
I know. I remember the amount of samples that I've seen on vellum, and that brings me back.
That's a long time ago. And so now what I'm gonna do is, there's a little icon here of a lock. And so what I do is I now lock this layer. So if I get my quill, it gives me a no. It says no. That Jurassic Park, wrong layer. Yeah, like on Jurassic Park. And so it won't let you do that. So what I do then is I create a new layer, and simply by creating a new layer is down here at the bottom where the little icons are.
Yeah.
You just click on this little icon and you
It
create
says
a
new
new
raster layer. I just read quickly there. So yeah, new raster layer.
Yeah. Just new raster layer right there. And then you just double click and you name it whatever you want. And
Ben Genovese, sorry, he says, I didn't know Dave drew Power Rangers. How did that get by me? It was just one cover. So yeah, it's easy to slip through there. I've done so many just one-off covers that it's a lot of times I love doing them, but I have to say, Jimmy, it's not the best way to build a career. The best way to build a career is to be on one thing that people can find you and they know where you are and they can kind of get into that. If you're doing little things here and there, it's harder.
Yeah, it's harder to follow. It's true, than people. And then you're remembered for Moon Knight, like Avengers and Batman. And,
right, they're all runs. That's right. Jeff Delgado has just brought the brushes. Thank you so much, Jeff. That's great.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm actually going to be creating a new brush, or I've been working on a new brush, And I like if you see here in my top left corner, these are all my brushes right here. So what I did was in the very bottom, you see this says RAM on it because this is Robert Marzullo's brush. And so what he did was I'm an affiliate. I used to use his brushes, and every time you bought his brushes, I got a percentage from it. But I've never released this particular brush down here, and I won't because it's actually Robert's. But no offense to Robert, what I did was I made adjustments to it, just minor stuff because he's a great brush designer. I just did little minor stuff just to help it for print. The brush itself was great. There were just little minor things, you know, that you have to consider when designing a brush for print. One of them, like you might remember this, Dave, in like Photoshop anti-aliasing down here.
Yes.
You know, the anti-aliasing was up really high. I turned it down to almost completely off. That's one key thing you really have to have.
And what that does is it'll give you a crisp edge. Anti-aliasing gives you just a slightly blurred edge, so it makes things look a little softer. But when it prints, it can actually kind of it makes the picture potentially look a little blurry, depending on how it gets printed.
Sin, that's a great explanation, man. You did it so quickly that.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I see you had 600 DPI, and then also I was going to have a question about how far do you zoom in? Is there a point where you kind of back off because you're going to lose details, or?
There's a trick to it. One is that Dave's pencils and your penciler. You never want to go thicker, too thick, thick past your penciler's line, or too thin past your penciler's line. Kind of use that as a guide. It's already there. And really, to be honest, Dave's work, even though he's got a very organic and it appears to be very messy, but it's really very clean. And really, to be honest, you could just like darken his pencils and print them, if you wanted to. But I know that's not Dave's style. And
it's really not. And I know that you can. And I've had Meredith say, "Oh, just do that," but it does not look right.
Same here. I never enjoyed that stuff. So the reason I'm at 600 DPI is when you print a comic book, it prints at, if you look at the very top of my screen up here, it's 6.88 by 10.5. And that's with the bleeds. It's just slightly larger than when it gets printed. It actually gets a little cropped, just a 0.25 all around. So what I am doing is I am setting up my digital page at 100% of what, basically 100%, maybe 110 is what it is, of the actual printed file. But I am working in twice the resolution. I'm working in 600 DPI. So then what happens is I send off my file. The colorist can work either 600, 400, or whatever. And then whenever it goes to production, they output it for the printer at 300. So this way, it's working the same way we work traditionally. Traditionally, you have an artboard of 11 by 17, which is what you see Dave Finch drawn, 11 by 17. And then what happens is he draws it at 11 by 17. And then what happens is they will reduce it down 67%. So it actually prints, like this little area right here. And so they scan it in at 300 DPI, but when the artwork is then reduced, it then begins to close in the lines and it begins to look really crisp and clean. So I'm recreating that digitally. So awesome. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. And it's real simple. And there are a lot of people like to work differently. I know at DC Comics, it's 500 DPI and you're working at the same size.
So Daniel Newman says the second number is the green direction. Do you know what that means?
The green direction, meaning like I don't know what it means by green.
Okay, I don't know either. So maybe Daniel, if you wouldn't mind just clarifying, because it's interesting, and I don't know.
Grain direction. The grain of I thought he said green.
Oh, right, grain.
Grain. Okay, that's right. Canadian grain. Oh, okay. So the second number is the direction of the grain. And is that the grain on like on the paper, or the grain of, since it's no longer dots per inch, it's actually pixels now? Is that what he's referring to?
I don't know. So if you could clarify, that'd be very interesting.
Because you could get really technical, and you can get.
Let's not get too technical, because 954. I want to see some.
All right. All right, so here we go. So what I do is say I get this here, Dave's work. And to be honest, I mean, I'm giving you guys information, but at the same time, I'm trying to get rid of the butterflies in my stomach. I get excited every time I eat Dave's work. So, all right, so what I do is I like to look at it. I get my vantage point. When I got Dave's original, I would stand up and I look over the artboard and be able to get the whole thing in because I'm inking this. I'm going to zoom in and work little pieces, but it has to come together as a whole. So you need to make sure to, absorb it all of it. So I'm going to look at places where I can start inking. What is, if you're traditional, you got to test your tools. Since my tools are always consistent, I don't have to do that, but it's my hand that won't be. Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So I'm going to start out with a little area right here that's kind of in here, even though this is going to be black. So I'm going to kind of cheat on some of this here just because to get myself in rhythm a little bit, just to kind of see what my brushes are doing. So basically, like Dave's work, my brush is too thick. I'm gonna go down to 50 now because I don't like the pin pressure. So I can zoom in about as much as I want, but
Going down to 50 in size.
50 in size, yeah. 50 pixel brush. And so this right here, these little things I'm just kind of inking are going to get covered up pretty quickly because what happens here is we have this shadow. And I know Dave's thing is we've had this conversation before, but correct me if it's changed, is that no halos on your work.
Well, you know what? No, I don't like halos, but then I end up doing it myself all the time. So I'm a total hypocrite and I don't actually know anymore.
See, it was a setup because I have the Walking Dead cover right here. It's got a halo on it. I
know. So yeah, there you go. So you just used the selection tool and selected an area and then just filled it with black.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. I should slow down. I'm not slow down, but explain that. So this is called a lasso fill tool. That's right over here. So it's I guess you can hit the U key on default and it'll take you to it. So if you look here, it's a sub tool. No, that's not right. It's in a sub tool folder, but I have it set up on my desktop. It's called the lasso fill tool. So if you see here, there's a rectangle underneath sub tool, and then you go to direction tool and then lasso fill tool if you need to find it.
Such an essential tool, and they've got the thing buried under 3 layers. It's funny. Yeah,
it's so primary when it comes to inking comic books, and the reason for that is because when you're spotting black, there's a little trick to it. It can make the page feel heavier, and it can trick your mind into feeling that you've done more on the page. So you kind of get that second win. You feel like, oh, I've done so much so quick, and you get motivated.
Well, not only that, I know for me, I'm drawn, I'm way behind. Meredith comes down every once in a while and she's like, how's this coming along? And so, yeah, I just fill in a huge area with brush and it looks like I've done a lot of work. And she's like, oh yeah, it's coming along.
You just shake the bottle of ink on there, spread it with the brush. Look at that, Meredith, I did so much. Progress. Yeah. So what I like to do too as well is spot my blacks first, just to kind of get a sense when I ink Dave's work, just because Dave has a really great use of shadows. And I know that if you guys are fans of his work like me, Eric, I'm sure you were the same. You came in, we met Dave as fans first, before we can say now we're friends with him. But I think it's his shadows that is what's so attractive in his work.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to always keep that in mind and render out of his shadows when I do inks. And I think you do it backwards, right, Dave? You render and then black?
No, I do shadows first, and then I do it really the same way, except with a brush. Obviously, you can't do a selection, but I do my rendering out of shadows. I find it difficult. I've gotten more comfortable lately, but it's more difficult for me to render without a shadow shape. And by rendering, in case sometimes terminology, rendering in inking means all the line work. So the thick to thin, pulled lines for fading from dark to light, and for detail, we call it rendering. You could also call it cross hatching, line work, whichever.
Yeah, line work is kind of the terminology. If you guys watch my stream, that's how I refer to it, is your line work. Only because pencilers work in graphite, where you can see Dave has lightened up his pencil, and he's got all these multiple variations in the color of pencil, even though it's going to go solid black like that. I can't recreate that with ink unless, you know, like an ink wash, but that's not Dave's style as well.
And it can be beautiful, but yeah, definitely not. And really, my style is pretty limited by. I came into Image Comics. This is the kind of work that we were doing, and while what I do is a little different than that, it's very much based on that. And so I think to myself sometimes, yeah, it'd be great to try some of these different things, and at the same time, I don't want to lose the character of what I've always done. It's a bit of a, you want to grow, but you don't want to forget who you are. I think as an older artist with an established style, I think if you're a younger artist, you know, go nuts and have fun with it. Don't limit yourself. But for me, I definitely have by now in my career, I have a established way.
You know, and that was one of the things, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, I found that early John Byrne, I fell in love with his work. And then late John Byrne, I didn't like it as much. I found that he grew as an artist and started to do different things. And
yeah,
you know, things.
Yeah, we all have artists that, you know, we like a period of, whether it's, well, whoever it is. And I know, you know, my work has certainly changed. And I hear actually fairly often from people that really like the stuff that I did on Ascension.
Yeah,
and I'm so happy. And at the same time, I'm like, oh no, that was like 25 years ago, you know, but that's life.
So when I ink traditionally, I'll rotate the page because I like to I like to pull my line. Digitally, I can do, you know, anything. I can pull, push, whatever.
When you're doing those lines, are you using any kind of, is that just a straight up line that you're pulling with your hand, or are you using like a correction? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, with Clip Studio Paint, you have what's called the stabilization. So when you throw your hand, there's a bit of shake in it. So it'll correct it and create a straight line. So what I do is I set my stabilization to a speed and I bring the stabilization down. I don't want too much stabilization, so then things look too mechanical. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to throw that line fast with confidence, and then it's straighter. Because if I do it slower, I can get a shakier line. Oh, go ahead. I stopped. I thought you were going to read the super chat.
Actually, Extreme Maybe said, hey, Dave, we're going to come see you in Colorado Springs. I'm looking forward to that. And actually, and I'm glad I hit that one. I was going to hit this one here, and this is SCS Powerlifting has a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, because Jimmy is here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this guy's awesome, man. He super chats on yours, and then he comes over to mine and he shows support. You know, he'll super chat on my stream, and I just go like, wow, man, like I can't believe I got somebody who's super chats on Dave Finch's stream, and he's doing mine too. Like, you know, it's crazy to think, you know, that God, I remember the days, and there's a lot of viewers out there where I was inking and I thought, is there anybody even out there even noticing? I was even getting published, but I had no fans, nobody. It felt like I got no response, you know, at all. The Pensers love what I was doing. Yep. But then I decided to get on YouTube, and I got on YouTube, and a month later I get an email from a Meredith Finch out there asking me to ink David Finch.
Dearman says I should move Jimmy up so he's not blocked by super chats. I'm going to try. I'm not sure if I know how. Okay, I officially don't know how. I'm trying.
You click on my face and drag it up above where.
Yeah, you can do that.
Click on your face and
there we go.
It's working.
Yeah, like that. There you go.
I had it.
Oh, you had it. Okay, I'll let go. You do it.
Oh, sorry. I'm moving myself up, and
I negated yours. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm short, guys, so my booster seat only goes up so high. So, yeah, thank you.
So you're using a drawing monitor, right? Are you using a Wacom?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that. If you guys look right here, I actually have a Wacom Cintiq, and it's actually pretty. It's pretty big. It's pretty big. Sorry to shake that camera there, but
nice.
I just kind of thought I'd show you guys. Here's another way I could have done that. Is I have it on a flex arm, and my flex arm allows me to move it, and you can see like in the back of it. But yeah, I know that's not that exciting to see it from behind. I forgot when I started doing that, I forgot that I moved it to this side, which won't allow me to turn the screen in front of the camera anymore. But yeah, that's usually people will ask, do they need a Wacom? You know, do you need a screen to do this? But no, I started with an Intuos tablet, and I had, you know, I was looking up at my monitor, which was ergonomically was great because it kept my neck straight, you know. And you know, doing this, I actually bend down a lot now, look down, but that's how you do it traditionally.
Now you're using, not actually seeing what you're doing right now, but you're using the RAM Smooth Inker Reyes edition right now. Is that the?
Oh no, I use mine. It's in my brush set. I actually don't ever really use the RAM brush. I started with that one, and then I manipulated it and changed it. Then I started to play with it even more and more, and I said, "Hey, I should just make my own brush." Mm-hmm. But be honest, you could just grab Robert Marzullo's brush and don't even do any adjustments to it. It's a great brush. You know, so you don't. But each person has, each artist going to have their own kind of preferences, and I'm sure people are going to.
Ultimately, your hand comes into it, and people's hands just naturally work differently, and so you know your brush settings will change. I think it's great to have brushes that will give you 90% of the way, and then as you do it more and more, you'll find, hey, maybe this or that, and you can play with it a bit. But yeah, definitely a thing. Greg Stork Wilson says, do you ever just adjust the contrast and brightness to start and clean up in ink after that?
I have my own settings, and I do use some contrast in it. I have what's called a digital inking kit, and in that kit, I have my settings all recorded. So it's just like Photoshop, where you have this right here. If you look down at the bottom right corner, I have this little action, an auto action, which is the same thing like in Photoshop. You record the movements, and then all you have to do at that point is just click play, and it'll go through all those actions automatically. So if I do that with the artwork, if you look right here, I go back to reset my display. So I select that auto action, and I click my play button, and we'll see how it goes through, and it starts to get rid of everything, and it just shows my artwork, and it gets all of my art ready for print to make it look just a little more traditional. Mm-hmm. And so let me go back and undo all that stuff real quick. You can see how it's happening. Let me see, I got 2 more auto actions left. There you go. I'm back to where I was. And that I learned from a manga artist. I used to work with this manga artist. She taught me how to prep everything for files, how to prep my files, little tricks to make things look traditional. And that auto action has saved me so many times. It makes my inks look even better when they're printed. And sometimes I look at it and I go, "Oh my God, I love this inker. Who was that? Oh no, that was me."
If I do say so myself.
And I'm like, "Oh no, it was the auto actions. It was the auto actions. They improved my work." So I think what's key here is,
and this is the Crow Quill.
Yeah, this is the Crow Quill that's in my digital brush set. That's in there, and thank you, to those that have bought it. It helps support me. I really appreciate that. It allows me to, be able to, keep my channel running. So that kind of support, it's greatly appreciated. It's not like big money where, I'm running around in a Ferrari or something. I'm not Dave Finch. I'm not out there on the red carpet.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Dave got spinners the other day. You told me about those spinning rims on your tractor.
That's right. Yeah, spinners on the tractor.
Yeah. I know. It's like it's that Moon Knight money that's coming in for Dave.
Painted the whole thing solid gold.
Plated solid gold tractor. There you go. Yep, you make Duck Dynasty Brothers jealous with that tractor.
Now I have to admit I can't see where you're working right now.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was gonna put a little pointer on the show. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay within this little area of your leg,
Okay.
because I like some of the lines that are in here. With some of your lines, I can change. You do a little bit of these angular kind of lines, then you
How are
finish
you
it off.
getting that? I'll tell you what, that shape of that both lines where you've got a thin and then it goes like a hard thick, that looks like a um I've seen Scott Williams get that kind of line with a brush, and I tried with Clip Studio to get that effect. It, I could never get it.
It's in the creation of the brush. I tell the brush, you know, how to, like, I have these curves and how to go from thin to thick based on the pressure. So the pressure isn't set in Clip Studio. It's not set on my Wacom. It's all set in my brush. So no matter if I were to take my brush and put it on any other system, as long as that system is all on default settings, that brush will stay consistently. So theoretically, you should get the exact same lines. And so with one brush, I can do a really thick line, thin to thick. I can do these like kind of feathery lines that can start to come in, I can do the kind of micron lines that go like that. We could do zigzag lines.
And they have such a great end. I'm used to digital brushes having a rounded kind of ugly end to them. And I know you can square it, but I just never found that it worked like how you're getting it to work.
Oh yeah, it took me a long time to play with them and figure them out. But I'm experimenting now with another brush that's actually my all-in-one. It actually works like my Crow Quill and my brush, where what I do is I take my pen, I can tilt it now and still get the lines that I would get from my brush, from my Klinsky Sable, because I hold it differently. So I'm getting them all kind of all in one. Then I like these blobs at the end. I like to
So
do these. Yeah, I like to do these blobs. And so I'm experimenting with a new brush. It's not completed yet. So it's why I'm not using it right now, because I so love that angular line on yours, and I still haven't gotten that to go in this brush.
Yeah,
With the
truthfully,
blob.
I can't get that line myself. Now, when I'm making myself, the tools that I'm using or just my ability, I can't get, that level of line quality, but I can get something better than what I could get with Clip Studio. The other thing, and I know you kind of touched on this, but a big problem that I was having when I was inking digitally or drawing, I was really kind of drawing with ink, but I would zoom way in and I would detail like a tiny, tiny little panel, and I'd zoom back out, and it would just like printed. It would just be mud. And then I would have a big panel, and because the panel was so big, I wouldn't zoom in as much, and it would look not very detailed, and it was really making my art look really uneven. And I never really got the hang of how to know what size to be working at. I know you mentioned it, so I hate to bring it up again, but it was such a big one for me.
No. One of the safe things, if you work in 600 DPI, is to stay with a 40 to 50 pixel brush. Don't go any smaller. And basically, some of it is also inking experience. Things that I've learned from other inkers out there, that when I was starting out were telling me, like some of these fine lines, you gotta keep in mind that when you ink a line, if you go too fine, it's going to disappear when it's printed. If your lines are too close together, when they're reduced down, they're going to get even closer and they're going to get muddy. So you have to have a certain amount of spacing between lines.
Yeah, and on paper that's easy enough to get the hang of, but digitally, yeah, you really do need to have a system for that to avoid it.
Yeah, I didn't start inking digitally. I started traditionally, so I think there's a bit of advantage there for me. I kind of I've already created by eye. I can tell if the line's going to be too thin or too thick, but for those that are just starting out now, it could be a bit of a challenge if you're just starting to learn to ink and you're doing it digitally, because you also have to develop your eye for that.
I agree. I think everybody really liked that explanation. For me, I think it's really helpful, and it was probably the second most important thing that just stopped me inking digitally.
Was this on? Because I'm sure everybody's kind of wondering, but I want to guess this was on the New Avengers, wasn't it? With the one where they're holding up the flag.
It was Justice League of America.
Justice League, that's the one. Ah, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, DC.
Yeah, Justice League of America. I did a bunch on Batman before that, and then I was doing Justice League of America, and I just never got as comfortable as I'd like to get.
And earlier you touched on, this is kind of the new way of what things are going. And I think with today, things being everything on demand, we want everything fast. Companies are looking to save money, and this saves on shipping.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And deadlines.
I used to actually send my pages to Marvel Comics, and Marvel would send them to the inker. The inker would send them back to Marvel. Marvel would split the pages between the inker and the penciler and then ship them back. That's a lot of shipping for art. Now, none of that happens for the most part. It doesn't happen. And if I do work with an inker, I ship the pages directly to the inker now. And a lot of artists, if you're working traditionally, if the inker's working traditionally, you'll still just send them a scan. And so you're basically printing out what you have here. So you just adjust the lines down to blue, print it out in ink. Traditionally over blue line. It's a very common way of working now, just to avoid shipping costs.
Yeah, to try to get the best of both worlds. You're kind of working digitally, but still getting that traditional. Because then what happens is an inker is established as a traditional artist, and you have a certain workflow, and then if you try to go digital, then that's learning a whole new tool. Even though you know how to ink, but you don't know how to ink with a computer.
Yeah. So you could ink this whole picture really with that quill, because I love how that looks. I like the line quality from it. What percentage of this whole picture do you think you would use that for?
Honestly, I've inked every picture of yours pretty much with this crow quill, because it really acts like a crow quill brush.
Yeah, which is the look that I've always liked, is crow quill over brush. Although I've worked with inkers that use entirely brush, and I can't even tell. It looks like crow quill in some places. It looks like brush in other places.
And that's kind of this tool. It doesn't really matter if you're crow quill or brush. You're going to get the feel of both. You can easily adapt to it. And so for me, the only time I would then go in and do something different is if if there was a notation and you said, fade out with a dry brush, then I would use a different brush.
Let's see what it ends up looking like.
Yeah,
look at that. Very cool.
But I could, I could use the dry brush at the end of, something. I could do all this kind of stuff. We can always play with it. And then the great thing is I can always undo, or I can put on a separate layer and then give you two versions,
I don't know if you know the answer to this one, but Greg Wilson asks, how do inkers print up a blue line on decent paper with no weird printer ink / India ink interaction?
A good and decent printer, don't use a laser printer, use an inkjet printer. Print it on good paper. I used to use the Strathmore 300, and it would not take the inkjet ink very well until Dave showed me the 200.
Which is crazy. It's less, right? 200 is less than 3, but it is better paper. Who knows?
It takes the inkjet and it feeds right through my Epson workflow printer. I still have the same printer that I used to use back then, but it's now collecting dust because I do everything straight in the computer. And the cool thing is everything stays so clean and crisp in all these lines.
Yeah, they look great and really nicely close together without closing up. It's very, very that kind of thing. And you can see none of that's in the pencils. And this is why a really great inker can make such a big difference to a picture, because I just quickly threw in some dark shapes there, but I really didn't realize it at all. And I knew Jimmy would be able to turn that into some nice, inking patterns. And really, he can interpret that in a million different ways. I mean, there are a lot of, you could have done a dry brush effect for that, or a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, one of the things here is like, keeping in mind what you're drawing down here is that you're creating a ripple effect. And water and ripple isn't a flat line. Ripples have waves to them. So by going through and creating these like double lines and bouncing my line, not keeping it straight, is trying to recreate that wave texture where the light would hit in the highest points of that ripple effect. And the darker areas, the darker part of the water in shadow casted by the figure that's standing in water. And he's creating motion. So keeping all that in mind, and you know, and that's why, like, if you happen to live near a pond, a river, or you go swimming at night or night fishing or whatever, just look down in the moonlight and like pay attention to this stuff, you know, and your mind will record it. And then when you draw it, you're going to draw back on that experience.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that the inker, I mean, is just as much as an artist as, you know, the penciler, the colorist. I mean, you got to know what you're doing. You're not just tracing. You're there's a certain amount of embellishment. You know, there's a certain amount of creativity that the inker brings to it. I mean, those lines that you're putting down are organic. You know, even though you're inking over the pencils, there's a lot that goes on, and it's definitely an art form.
Yeah, absolutely. Alphin says, I hope you had fun at the Doctor Strange premiere, Dave. Yeah, I had a blast. It was a really fun movie. It was crazy. I mean, it was, you know what? I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it was absolutely over the top. There were a lot of scenes where the audience was gasping and like, you know, surprised. I know I was, especially right just about smack dab in the middle of the movie. They introduced some characters that just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. I was pretty thrilled. So,
how many times did you find yourself saying to yourself, Scarlett Johansson's not smiling at me?
I'm not sure what to make of that comment, but
you're like, she looked my way. She wants to be married. She wants me as her husband. I knew it. Yeah, the stalker Dave comes in there. He's like,
that's right.
Meredith. Oh, luckily, Meredith doesn't watch her streams, so otherwise,
it is true she doesn't. I think if she's on the Finch Flock Facebook page. If I said something stupid, she would hear all about it.
Oh yeah.
Luke Forwardson says Marvel agents watching the stream, making sure Dave doesn't let out leaks. You know, the movie I think comes out tomorrow, doesn't it? Is that right?
It probably started tonight, didn't it?
Right? Okay.
Oh, it has.
We're going tomorrow. I'm pumped.
Yeah. I want to see it, even though I know I'm going to zoom out so I can see what I'm doing, better, you know, perspective here. But I know that I think I'm going to like it. You know, it's Doctor Strange, it's a Marvel movie, even if it's not like, you know, the biggest, greatest movie. I think it'll still be a fun experience, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's a guy in there with claws from what I've seen in the trailer, and that's one of my favorite characters.
Now, this is unrelated, but we have a super chat from Danny Brown. Thank you so much. And he says, studying your perspective videos, Dave, does every panel have some sort of perspective in it, even when it's just talking heads? Yes, they all do, because any viewpoint is going to have perspective. If you just have a head, if I tilt my head a little, so much easier for me to draw this stuff. This is why I always draw my explanations. But
you can do it. You can.
Well, I can't because I don't have my thing set up to do it. But when you're looking up at a head and it's tilted away, your eyes, nose, mouth will go back in perspective. Your ear will come back this way. You do have perspective. Really, though, you know, setting up actual perspective with a grid and doing the whole work, you should not be needing to do that at all. It does have perspective, but a good portion of it, once you learn perspective, it's something that you should be able to kind of just, you know, infer onto the page, just knowing that you're looking at something. Imagine that head is a box and you tilt the box, you know, that head would still have to be in that box and be in perspective. You do have to learn it, but it's something that gets really intuitive. Sorry, Jimmy, but I wanted to answer that one.
No, I'm learning. I love when you talk art, man. And you know, the one thing I know about you, if it happens when you, because you and Eric talk art, Eric, if it happens with you, but every time I talk to Dave, he always like talks down about this technique. Like, oh, it's just something that, you know, I'm like, no, dude, this is great information. Like, He always like brings it down. I'm like, no, man, this is stuff I don't know. Like, share this with me, you know?
Well, thanks, Jimmy.
You know, you're not going to live forever, Dave.
Alvin says the old Bridgman box heads. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it.
But, you know, I mean, you do this stuff and it comes to you like so naturally. But for us, you know, this is an opportunity I want to take advantage of, you know, and then your viewers are getting a great opportunity because it's the same with me. Like, I get to learn from David Finch. Like, this is my favorite artist, and I love to draw like you if I could.
Yeah. We have a super chat from Ledrest who would like to comment on what you're doing with my picture right now. Absolutely. And it's totally true. A good inker. And the thing is, a good inker, you need to be a good artist. You can't just be an inker. You need to really know how to draw. And the best inkers are always the best artists. Jimmy is actually an incredible artist also. Well, inking is art. So I don't want to, you know, separate those two, but you know what I mean?
Not yet.
So it is very, very true.
Didn't Kevin Nolan start as a inker, Dave?
You know what? I want to say no. I think he started out as a penciler inker and was inking his own work. And I've got a whole book of his stuff. I read the entire.
He's a fantastic inker as well, and
his inks are finishes really. It ends up looking like his work. Yeah. So best name I can think of has a super chat for $5. Thank you so much. He says, I know it's not related, but how do you approach tattoos or patterns on clothing without it competing with anatomy or wrinkle type lines? I don't have a good answer for that one. It competes. It's so difficult. I like to draw with shadow shapes and rendering coming out of those shapes, and it just naturally is going to conflict with tattoos and that kind of thing. And so I just let it happen. So if the tattoo is going to, you know, conflict, if it's going to fade into the shadow, I just let it happen. If the rendering is going to go over it, I kind of just let it happen. And it's not always ideal, but I don't know of a good solution for that. The best solution really would be to not be so render heavy in my work, but I like working that way. Sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
Well, going back to one thing you said before, I thought we should maybe expand on it, is when I started inking the water, you said you draw shapes, black shapes or dark shapes in there. Well, what do you mean by that?
I'm just drawing some just random squiggles, and it's very loose. And you can see if you look at, you know, the blue underneath, none of those clean lines and that kind of definition is in there. It's just it's just basically some indicated shapes kind of interlocked together. And so really everything that you're doing, and you can see really, and it's a really great example showing the back and forth because you're creating your own artwork there, and that's inking. And I think inkers just don't get the kind of credit that they should because people look at it and just assume that it's a pencil. You work with a great inker and their work becomes part of what you get credit for. It's an unfortunate part of the business. Now, being a penciler, I'll take it. But this is really Jimmy just taking over, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I get nervous because I still haven't found that level of how far to go on your work. You know, because I'm still, really be honest, I'm still fairly new over your work, even though I've inked you a dozen times, you know. So I still ask myself, like, how far should I go? Like, I don't want to go full Kevin Nolan on you and just overpower your work. I'm just kidding, Kevin. But I definitely don't want to do that, but I want to put my signature on your work.
Yeah, well, and I think the toughest thing about being an inker is you can do a beautiful, perfect job, something where you really are making a good artist or a bad artist look good, and the artist will see it. And actually, I saw a comment earlier on. Somebody was saying, I think it was Story by Osmosis was saying he had seen inks by somebody. They did a great job, but it really brought a lot of the inkers' aesthetic into it, and he liked it, but it was different. And I know what that's like. It looks great, but it doesn't look like how you thought it would look. And it's such a tough thing being an inker, trying to read a penciler's mind. And this is why it usually takes a little bit of time to, you know, develop a relationship with an inker and a penciler.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's probably why a lot of penciler inker partnerships have lasted so long over the years is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things too that the inker doesn't really have the luxury or can't afford is to, but I would suggest if you can, is to research the penciler's style and see what they've done on their own and see what other inkers have done over their work to give you an idea of what, where what you should stay within the boundaries, what boundaries you should stay in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Bogey's Books. Just brought your brush pack.
Oh, thank you guys. You guys are amazing. I can now put cheese on my burgers when I take my wife out for dinner. I'm just kidding.
Well, trying to get Jimmy to do this stream, he demanded that we push the brush pack, otherwise he wouldn't do it. And so, I caved and said, "Fine, well, we'll talk about it."
Yeah,
not true. But I do want to push it because I think it's, and I think the effect that you get from it is great, and it solves the problems that I had, working on this stuff. So it's something that I was really curious about, and yeah, and also, I mean, come on, Jimmy, you're on here. I want to push your stuff. You don't have to bribe me.
No, thank you. That's one of the things I think, as like with an inker, you never know what kind of pencil you're going to get stuck with. Not stuck with, but work with, and what I like to say, here, and I know Dave, you're humble. You never talk about any of this stuff, but Dave's really fair. And as for an inker, there's no guarantee you're going to end up with a penciler who's going to say, oh, I really respect what you do, and I feel that you should get a fair, treatment or fair pay or whatever. And you've always been that way with me. You've always taken care of your inker.
I certainly, try to. I mean, look, not always perfect with it. I don't communicate the best. Yeah, but I do try. Actually, Doomsmith's Light Pad channel has a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. And he says, if the majority of the artists in the industry are working digitally, aren't you and others worried you're eliminating a secondary source of income for yourselves selling original art? How do you feel?
I think, it's yes and no. I mean, original art is always a good way to augment your income, especially when you're David Finch, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, and your work can sell for thousands of dollars, and you have thousands of fans out there, and you're working on a title that's huge. But when it's someone, if you're an artist who you're establishing, digital can help you work faster, and in the same time, you're augmenting your income, and you can make more money. But the other luxury is that I can choose to work traditionally. I can work pages quickly, knock out all the interiors like bam, bam, real fast digitally, and then say, hey, Dave, can I ink you traditionally on the cover or splash page?
Yeah, Jason Febok was saying the way he gets around that is some pages, like a splash page or something, he'll do traditionally, or like a cover or something like that, he'll do traditionally. So, there's that revenue stream there.
Yeah, it's the expectation of the industry. It's a little tough to fight. But I do think if you're working on something that really isn't going to ever generate a whole lot of money in the secondary art market, sure. Yeah. But the minute you kind of go down that way, it's a little difficult to pull back out of. And I would not want to work digitally for a lot of my stuff just because I do sell the original art. And so it's definitely a consideration. I'd be completely lying if I said that I wasn't, or it wasn't. L's World Studios has a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. He asks, do you ink in a vector or raster layer, and why?
I don't ink in vector. It is a raster layer, only because of file size, and I don't need to edit the line in vector because of the way my pins are designed. But if only editing I'll do is if, let's say, there's a particular line here, and I go, well, I want another little white coming through in that over here in this section where I just make that big blob at the bottom of the water. Yeah. Let's just say I go, oh, I want it to kind of cut more into it. I'll do that kind of editing to bring in more white in the work, just so that there isn't, to break up some of that black in there, and it kind of creates a little more detail. I do stuff like that, or I'll change the shape of my line where I've said, oh, I put a blob at the end of this line. Say like, this line that's coming up right here, down here. Let's just say I did a pointy line, right at the end right here. And I go, no, I want to make it an angular line. I can just slice it off, do stuff like that.
Nice.
And that's, so raster for me just works better. Vector is just like so memory hungry for me. And this is how I was taught by that manga artist. She was really experienced and said she worked in Vector, but told me what I was trying to do, that this was the best way for me.
Well, it's worked out really, really well. So.
And yeah, it worked out for me. So I stick with it. But I say, I don't know if if I can't say that you have to be doing this.
You know what? This is the problem. No matter what you do, there's always another 10 different approaches. And so I feel like with these things, rather than saying, what, you can do it a million different ways and that's fine. And that's true. The whole point of this is really to see how you do it. So.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess that should be the little notation is, keep in mind that this is just the way that I do it. And if you like my work, then, I think it's okay to, follow my workflow until you get a hang of things enough that you go, oh, okay, well, I can add this or remove that to the way that I learned from Jimmy. Because that's what I did to the manga artist. There were things in her work for manga, and I go, oh, I can't use stamp brushes. I have to make my own brushes. So I took that out. There were things, that I removed from her workflow. And hers was, she taught me to never, ever use this white right there. Never touch that. And I understand because she was coloring her work in Clip Studio. I'm not. So I could use white to paint over because I'm going to flatten it, export it, and the colorist uses Photoshop anyway.
When I was using Clip Studio, I was going back and forth between black and white. I actually had that as a shortcut key at the big Cintiq, and I would just go back and forth. So it worked for me, but yeah, obviously depends on what you're doing with the work.
Yeah, and because she's got in my head, I never use the white.
Yeah.
I always forget it's there. So, but you don't have to. Yeah. Oh, and going back to the original. Oh, sorry, Eric. I mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's right. I was just asking if Dave moved himself to the bottom there.
Yeah, well, I did. I keep doing this.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind.
And so I figured I would take a turn at the bottom for a little bit because I'm the one that clicking on these.
Maybe I can sit up higher so my eyes can peek over the. It really doesn't bother me. You can move me down there. It's all right.
You guys are way too nice to each other. You're like, after you. No, after you. Only publicly.
Privately, exactly. It's nothing but abuse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have to, we put up pencils that we did for the painting stream that we did a couple weeks ago. And I think we're probably 20 minutes into that picture before it even occurred to me to say to Eric, oh, by the way, I'm recording this. Yeah. No, that's.
It's Eric. We know that, he goes with the flow. It's all right. He's laid back. I noticed Eric's no beard. And it's coming in. It's freaking me out, Eric.
It's a fledgling.
More beard than I do.
It's not Eric Grove anymore, dude. It's I don't know. It's a strange.
I've actually been shaving a lot more than I normally do lately. So
Andrew Lallard says I use the same brush tool I do for inking as I do for erasing lines instead of white. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Digitally. I used to do the same thing when I was traditional inker too, as well. I did a lot of that. But one of the benefits I think for pencilers out there, if you're going to get inked by somebody who's doing digital, then if you draw, I think do a lot of it traditionally, because then you end up keeping all the artwork. I think would be just because your inker is going digital, I don't think a penciler would have to do the same.
Right. Well, it does come down to that means the inker would have no original art to sell, and the pencil would have all of it. And then you could share if you choose to. But really, by all rights, the colorist should get some of the share too, since they're working digitally. They're not able, and it's definitely a debate, and I struggle with that because I want to be fair at the same time. It's revenue, and I mean that's just how it is. So
no, yeah, exactly, and that was what I was saying earlier. How you've been very fair to me, and because everybody, honestly, we all have bills, and we're all trying to support ourselves out here with our artwork. And
Henry says, so far, Jimmy, your inks look like Klaus Janson and Pablo Marcos, if you know who those guys are.
Wow, thank you. I know Klaus Janson, but I don't know who Pablo's.
Yeah, I'm actually familiar with Klaus Janson and not Pablo Marcos as much, but Klaus Janson is one of the most iconic inkers in the history of the business. He, for those of you, I'm sure you guys all know this, but he worked on Batman: The Dark Knight with Frank Miller. Pretty amazing stuff, and other things too. He did the Wolverine story that really kind of made Wolverine what he is, as far as I'm concerned.
I think he did Daredevil with
Daredevil, right? He did
Daredevil. That was great.
Oh, and Tom McCart's going to bed. Thanks for coming, Tomic. We'll see you next time.
Well, he is like, what, 12 and a half now?
No, but he's got school.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, I had a question. Do you ever put any inks on a separate layer for like color holds for the colorist or anything? Or do you try to put everything in one layer?
Yes. For color holds, if like when I was doing Dragon Rage, my creator-owned book, I was in close contact with the colorist, and I would shoot him an email and go, oh, for this background effect, do you want it on a separate layer for a color hold? So that what they can do is put those lines in any particular color, pushing or pulling the background, creating the effect, either make the background blend in with some kind of color effect. I don't know if I explained that right for people who don't know.
Yeah, well, it made sense to me, and I don't understand a lot of that stuff, so I think we're good there. Paul Essence is here. Good to see you, Paul. He says, Dave, did you catch up with other comic artists at the movie? I wanted to see Andy Park. I didn't see him there. He was there. I don't know how I missed him. I talked to J. Scott Campbell for a bit. He was there. And I actually, in the theater, I sat beside Steve Englehart, which was very, very cool. He's a legendary writer of, so many Marvel titles, in the 70s and 80s. And he's written so much of the stuff that was in the movie. And so, yeah, we talked for quite a while. It was very nice. I'd never met him before.
You should have just gotten a piece of paper and said, Steve, I'm always hard pronouncing your name. Can you write it on this piece of paper for me in cursive? He's like, Dave, why don't you just ask for my signature? Oh, can I? Yeah. Yeah, I would have been doing that, bothering everybody for autographs, man.
Draw the Word says NFT is a way for digital artists to sell their artwork. That's true. It absolutely is true. It's controversial right now, and that's also true. Look, I'm not going to say I have any kind of position. I don't, but I know there's controversy, and it's something that, as an artist, I feel like personally, I'm just going to say that I think you're better off if you can avoid controversy. So I just don't know what to say about that. I think it's great if any way that an artist can find to meet an audience demands and make money, I think is great. I guess that would be kind of my opinion on that one.
I'm just kind of ignorant in the whole thing. I really don't know how they work, and so I've never approached them.
Yeah. Oh, we have an Al Williamson shout out from Henry Jeremick. I put that up there.
Wow.
One of my favorite inkers and artists of all time.
I get people that tell me, and when I heard you say this the other day, I went, oh my gosh, Jimmy has a style, that I have a style in inking. And I've heard you said the other day that you can recognize my inks. Mm-hmm. And I always think to myself, oh, like, wow, like how do people, spot my inks, and I never think of myself that way,
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and it's a $20 super chat from Jim Klein. Thank you very much. Jim. He says, Jimmy, I recently picked up a Canvas display tablet. Do you have any tips or input on moving from a non-display tablet to a display tablet? So far, it feels more natural being able to look directly at what I'm working on.
You know, for me, it was resolution was a big thing for me, and real estate. I'm getting older, so I want to be able to zoom in and relax my eyes and not have to strain my eyes as much being on the big screen. So for me, it was the size of the display. But I know that's not for everybody in the budget. But other than that, I mean, if you can work in whatever size, I've seen people work in iPads. I've seen people, work on 13-inch little screens, and it blows my mind. So
Yeah, I think a potential issue that sometimes crops up is the parallax. But I know, like a good tablet, especially nowadays, even the cheaper ones, the parallax is almost non-existent.
And by parallax, you mean the distance between the glass and then the image below.
Yeah. So I know when I went from a tablet to a drawing monitor, the parallax was a huge problem. But I wasn't using Wacom or anything. I was using a cheaper brand. But nowadays, like XP Pen and Canvas, those are pretty good. I think they call it a laminated display, where there's virtually no parallax anymore. So
not okay. I forgot what. Oh no, I remember. Sorry. Another thing I really struggle with, and I'm curious if that's something that you have a solution for, or you just got comfortable with, is when you're working on a screen, it's very slippery as opposed to working on paper. So do you use like a surface or anything on there, or are you just working directly on the screen? It's something that you've gotten comfortable with.
I eat at my desk, so my screen is pretty sticky.
Perfect, great.
I've got ketchup. So that's been my trick, guys. And you can order Jimmy's screen ketchup on my website. No, I like the glass. I have, in case people are wondering, the exact model is I have the Wacom 22-inch 4K display monitor, and I like it. I like the size of it. I like the feel. Some people have said that this particular glass on this feels like paper. I don't know what paper they're referring to. It doesn't feel like paper. It feels like glass, but I like it because I ink smooth, and it creates the feel of a smooth line.
Mesolithic Man says Gil's last job was inked by Nolan, and he loved it. Apparently, actually, I think John Buscema ended up finishing some. Am I wrong? Here's what I do know. I don't remember what book that was, and I have not been able. Every once in a while, I remember that book, and I think I want to find it, and I don't know what it is. So, wait, I think I might actually have it. I might be thinking of a different. Anyway, I'm going on a total tangent here. I think I actually do have the Gil book by Kevin Nolan. It was Superman with Wonder Woman, and there's another one. It was inked by, or it was drawn by John Buscema with inks by Kevin Nolan. Sorry.
I really love that last book you showed. I mean, I'm going to take that tangent and that rabbit hole even further. But that last book you showed, what was that? And it was Wolverine #1.
It's Wolverine Essentials.
Wolverine Essentials. Yeah, it's.
I actually got it here as well.
But when I looked on Amazon, I found a different cover. Like I couldn't find that.
Well, whatever cover you can find, jump on it.
Yeah, you're gonna get newer printings of it.
Now you really can't replace the original. That book. That's part of the reason I was so happy. I've got mine still. It's actually right here. I was still just kind of looking at it, and you can see it's an old book. So I got this actually from JDSCT, and I'm sorry, JD, but yeah, he sent me this one, and it was especially special because it's the exact version that I used to have. Yeah, if you get the other cover, it's still fine.
And when you showed that artwork, I could see the influences in your work.
Oh yeah,
and I would have never connected them. had you not said anything. And then you said it, and I went, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I loved it. I love that you were being transparent, because I like to look at my favorite artists, and if I could find everyone whose work I admire, if I could find their inspirations and their, I would go to that.
A lot of times it feels like archaeology, looking at somebody's work and then finding somebody earlier and seeing if you can kind of connect them. It's always really interesting.
Did Mark Silvestri ever do that in the Top Cow studio? Did he ever go, "Okay, guys, this is my influences. This is where I learned"?
Yes, he absolutely did. John Buscema was absolutely his biggest influence. And I think I don't know his next biggest, but a big one for him was Walt Simonson. It was really, really big.
Yeah, he got Walt to do some work on Weapon Zero, right? Or Cyber Force Zero.
Yeah, that's right. Cyber Force Zero. There you go. Yeah, which was a great looking book.
Yeah, I remember that one. I was like, man.
Arachnon47 has a $5 super chat, Canadian, because he's in Canada, and he says, "Hey David, can't wait to see you at Niagara Falls Comic Con. Hope you and the missus have some sweet prints." Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So yeah, we'll see you there. Absolutely. So okay, it's 10:50 now. So I'm thinking if we could get the rest of the picture inked by about 11:30, you think we could pull that off?
Yeah. If you guys want to do the majority of the chatting, I'll get in my zone.
You can't possibly. There's no way you can finish that fast. Could you?
I probably not. It's your work.
Yeah, no, okay.
You can't finish a Dave Finch art that much. I don't know how you do it in the live stream. Okay, this is real for those that are watching. I watched that live stream. I watched Dave draw this.
The secret is to keep moving in your hand while you're talking.
Yeah, I keep picking it up.
It helps to be mindless.
But you drew this about as fast as I could ink it on a good day. That's how fast. Do you think, had you always drawn this fast?
I've always been faster than any inker I've ever worked with. It's just, it's a different job. And that's something, it's not because I'm so fast. Inking requires more precision. So
yeah, that's true. Where you get to scribble in a few stuff, I've got to figure out if I need to double the line or clean it up, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Dan Genovese with is that the coolest tattoo you've ever seen? Look at that thing.
Yeah, we don't get to appreciate these small little avatars until you throw them up on the screen. And
yeah, I'll see you in New York, Dan.
Are you doing a Texas convention after all, Dave?
I want to say no, but I'm not sure. I know I had to cancel one. I can't. Anyway, I don't know. Truthfully, I didn't even know that I was doing the Niagara Falls one. I got to vaguely remember. Meredith does all this stuff, so I never know what I'm doing. She just says, "Get in the car and go."
You gotta somehow come visit me and Eric so we can get you in trouble with the missus.
Hey, Comic Book Bob is here.
Hey, Bob. All right.
We did an appreciation of Neal Adams yesterday on Pontificators and ended up branching out to other creators like Aparo and Sanquist. Both Sienkiewicz. When I read it, I say it wrong. Yeah, both artists heavily influenced by Neal Adams, and both legends in their own right.
Because Eric and I have been talking about recreating The Hangover when you come over to Texas, Dave. We're gonna lose you, and you're gonna be we're gonna find you in someone's trunk, naked. So.
Mesothelic Man says, didn't Kevin Nolan draw some Moon Knight stories early on? He did, yes, actually. Yeah.
You started to tell us the other day. How did you end up on Moon Knight, Dave?
I left Avengers like a fool. And that's his own story, and certainly has nothing to do with the book or Bendis. I mean, both things that I loved. It was pressure, and I was young, and I was looking for my next project, and so Marvel had a couple of different options, and the first two scripts for Moon Knight by Charlie Huston were already written, and they needed an artist for it. They had already approved the scripts and it was kind of ready to go, and I loved it. And it was just, the timing just worked. Just when I was looking for something, they had scripts. They were looking for an artist. The thing is, whenever you're looking for your next project, the limitations are what editorial is willing to put you on, and that can depend on really the kind of look they're looking for a particular book, and also what artist is currently on that book. So if there's a book and Todd McFarlane is on that book, you're probably not going to be able to get that book. So it comes down to timing and a few other things. But yeah, that's how I ended up on Moon Knight. I was able to pick it, which was really nice.
Well, I'm really glad you ended up on Moon Knight. To be completely honest, I didn't know Moon Knight could look so cool.
Dennis Kelly wants to know if you have any plans to come to the Northwest Comic Cons in the future, Emerald City or Washington State Summer Cons.
To you? Oh, me? Oh my God! Somebody wants to see me at a convention? Yeah. I had no idea. Oh my God! What do I say? No, I honestly don't have any plans for conventions. Oh, I do actually. My friend Alfredo runs some of the biggest conventions in Texas, and he said he's got 3 new ones coming up. He's the guy that brought you to Texas back in 2016 or 17. Yeah. And he's invited me to go there. So I'll be doing the ones in Texas whenever those are. I don't know.
So I have a question. You made your inks really transparent for a moment there. Why was that?
Oh, what I like here is that I want to be able to see your pencils underneath. So going back to, what we talked about, an inker's job is to try to predict what the penciler what the end result that the pencil was trying to achieve. And so I guessed that by looking at your underdrawings and your type of pencils. So, and then again, too, I thought, well, what's really important is form and shape. So Moon Knight's shape right here, it gets a little sketchy down here. So I need to figure out, okay, did I lose something when I converted it to blue? What was Dave intending for the back of Moon Knight's leg back there? So for me to figure that out, I need to go back to your pencils to see, okay, did I miss some lines? And because I couldn't figure it out by just simply doing that, I go, oh, I need to lower the opacity. And now that I lower the opacity, I can see you actually drew, it's kind of a little white in here like this. You had a black shadow right in your pencils. So if we go back, see that you have a little, like either solid black or you have, you intended, I think, a fold right there in that.
I intended a fold there. Now it's just not really defined. But that's, I want to say it's a sketch. My finished pencils have those kinds of issues too. It's just, that's unless you're going to spend 50 hours on penciling, it's just going to have those kinds of things.
Which is, yeah, that's a good point, because pencilers, I mean, you got to keep moving. You've got deadlines. You've got editors, emailing you asking for so many different things.
Yeah. Michael DeFont has a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, Jimmy, I use your digital inking tools all the time. I love your work. You're a genius and a very kind person.
Yeah. I might come across a horrible person. Sometimes I say compliments and even my wife tells me that didn't sound like a compliment. I'm like, it was meant as a compliment. Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are so nice.
And Michael also has a $2 super chat. He says, Jimmy, I hope you make your way to a Boston area con.
Oh man, I would love to go conventions and all that. It's just as an inker, I don't really think, there are a lot of inkers that really get invited all over the place, unless you're like Danny Mickey or Scott Williams, I think. But who knows? I think the reason they get invited, not only because they're super talented, but the pencilers they work with. And, in my case, hey, if I get to work with Dave more, hey, you never know. I might become that kind of inker that gets invited, because who doesn't love Dave Finch work, man? Except for Eric. You should hear the things Eric says about your work, man.
Oh, I know. He says it to me all the time.
right, let's see. So is there a particular area that you guys would like to see me ink, or any viewers, since we won't be able to complete the whole thing?
Well, while we hold out for people to come up with their suggestions for what they'd like you to do, what I'd really like to see is you're using the Crow Quill, and that's pretty much exclusively what you used. I think I'd like to see some of the other brushes, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's say we want to do here. Say here is this this moon that's back here, and Dave, your style is pretty much, you know, these solid black shapes. But here's a brush that we could create another effect to. I labeled it a scratch blade. So what it really is that if you take it and you get a scratch blade and I scratch into the artboard, I'll get that effect. This is recreating that digitally, but digital also allows me to put ink on it, and I can get kind of a dry brush effect with it. So if I want to make those lines still look like a little textured and dirty, maybe to kind of push the moon back a little further, but still kind of keeping your style a little bit here, you know, kind of staying dark, we could do that with this particular brush.
Nice.
So
yeah, looks great. And I put it up on the screen for a second there, but I wanted to say that Justin Joins had a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Justin. He says, "Hey, Dave, Jimmy, and Eric, the art looks great." Well, thank you very much. And by the way, the face wins. People want to see the face.
Oh, the face. Okay, yeah. Let's go through and do some face. And so then let's say I want to do just real quick some of these brushes. If I want to just do like a dry brush in there with it to kind of blend it in, I can use my dry brush, and then I can just to keep it kind of rough there in the back. I also have like my own fingerprint that I used to, if I want to do like little thumbprints to be kind of messy.
Get a little Sean Gordon Murphy in there.
Yeah, a little Sean Gordon Murphy. There's all kinds of little things, effects that I could do that I have in this kit. Basically, I've created everything that I think I will need to create digital inks with a traditional look for line work like this, like Dave style, for like a mainstream style. But let's go back to that Crow Quill, and then we'll do your actual moon with more of your blacks and like little cuts in it and stuff. All right, so the face.
Yeah.
But that's back to the Crow Quill again.
Greg Stork Wilson asks, "What is the time frame you have to work? How long do pencilers get to do a book, and how long do inkers get?" We get a month because they come out monthly. If you're working on a monthly title, and so generally that means that you'll get just about 3 weeks. 3.5 weeks to do the book, and then you need a little extra time to do a cover and also, you know, to hopefully take a little bit of time off. Inkers, generally speaking, get less time, which is utterly unfair. And I said that inkers are slower than me and generally slower than pencilers, but that is the reality. You do get less time as an inker, and it is entirely down to the fact that pencilers will waste all of your free time. It happens all the time. So the penciler takes up too much time, and then the editor will expect the inker to make that time up, and they can be a little ruthless with that expectation. It's just a reality. So, yeah, you tend to get not enough time as an inker and not enough sleep.
You know, that's true. Expect long hours to do, and not only that, there were that time going back to that Power Rangers. We worked on that cover, and I remember you penciled the cover and moved on to another project after you had your next assignment, or moved on to your next assignment. I was on that book, and I remember the editor writing back saying it wasn't a change or correction in the artwork. It was just because of these are properties, and you have to have they're really strict on the look. So I remember like her cuff, they said, "Oh, you can't put this on the cuff. Change this, change that." And I remember I said, "Hey, I could just do that in Photoshop," and I knocked it out in Photoshop. But there were still some things that, like, I think that in the end they made you go back and you had to actually redraw in some costume changes.
Yeah, that stuff just happens. That's not often, thankfully, but when it happens, it happens. we have Color with Kurt here. So yeah, thanks so much for coming by, Color with Kurt, or Kurt. I'm not going to call you Color with Kurt every time, but yeah, very cool that you came by. I think something that would be really cool. Now, I'm not to call you out while you're here, but it would be amazing to have Kurt come by and maybe do a stream with us. Maybe even coloring this. I don't know if that's something you'd be willing to do, but I'm just throwing it out there. And Color with Kurt says Mr. Color with Kurt, so I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah, man, the guy's legit. He's an awesome colorist. It's Mr.
Yeah, he really is.
Show the respect, Dave.
He's in. Eric, he's in.
Yeah, he definitely helped me get over some digital coloring issues that I was having. So he's a great teacher. He really
is. A great colorist and a great
very good colorist.
So yes, Kurt, I will reach out to you. That's great. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'd be amazing. It'd be a really great stream.
Yeah. I watched his videos when I was coloring my first piece, even just for practice. I watched his tutorials, and that's where I learned a lot. He's great colorist.
Yeah. No, he's just enjoyable to watch too. I don't color, and I've watched a lot of his stuff just because it's it's nice watching it come together.
And I think too is
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but we have Andrew Dollhouse here.
Hey.
Yeah.
What's up, Jimmy, Mr. Streams?
Dude, you're getting all the super talented colorists.
I know, yeah.
Great colorist.
Wow. Andrew, man, that guy, he colored your cover for me that you did for Dragon Rage.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job.
Man, I loved it. It's my poster. The only poster that I have on that's going to go on the wall here in my new office. That's other than Frank Frazetta, because who else could go up there next to Frank Frazetta but David Finch of my character, So
we have a super chat from Jim Klein, and actually I think it's a really good question. He says, Jimmy, for you, what makes pencils inker friendly, and is anything that you find is there anything that makes art difficult to ink? Also, for people who are interested in it, can I personally recommend? I can't speak. I'm sorry, Jim. Jimmy's inking bottle. Yeah, you certainly can. So, what makes inks inker friendly, and what makes them really, not inker friendly? By the way, the face is looking great so far.
Oh, thank you. I was kind of wondering as I'm inking it, things go through my head of do this line or that line. Oh, I go that line. And, okay, let's try this. And you know what it's like. You're an artist, and Eric, I mean, and people watching, when you're working, I don't know how our brains do it, man. Inker friendly is, I think, artwork that you can interpret in ink is inker friendly. If it's artwork that, let's say, that the artist has a lot of, really graphite. I don't know, to be honest, I've challenged myself to not only ink artwork with cross hatching and line work. I've inked artwork that has these gradations and like tonal work. And I've used some kind of like stippling effects. I've used even cross hatching to kind of create that tonal effect with ink. So I think it's how friendly the art is. I guess the simple answer is how friendly the art is how skilled you are as an inker. Because I think you could really translate anything to ink, but it would then be a little more interpretation on some of the art based on its style, if that makes any sense.
It does. I'm just going to throw in there, I'm not an inker, but I've worked with inkers that have complained about some of the other art that they've had to work on, and really the general complaint is art that just is really not drawn in, or just really roughly sketched in, faces missing even. I've seen that, where hands just sketched and it's not really in there, and expecting the inker to finish that. And that's fine. But when you throw into the fact that, sometimes you don't even get the full month. Sometimes you'll get a pickup job and they'll expect you to do the whole thing in a couple of weeks. And trying to do that's just not possible.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, art you have to finish. I remember I was trying out for Eric Larson a long time, like 2007. He had a special project, and he sent me his pencils, and I inked it. And I remember inking a face like he had sent me, and the face was like this. You know, it was like it was seriously so cartoony with just 4 lines, and I went, okay, I guess this guy is like the carrot back then was real popular, that flaming carrot character, and I thought, okay, that or like Cerebus or whatever, one of those, Homer Simpson or something. And Eric Larson said, no, you're supposed to finish the drawing. Can you finish that face for me? So I love it. I love everything that you did, but you didn't finish that face. You're supposed to do it. And in his generation, or to him, an inker is a finisher, not somebody just, applying ink over it. So that always stuck with me. Now I question myself all the time going, how much should I be finishing and drawing in here?
Yeah. And well, you can get burned finishing it too much too if you add things that a penciler decides they didn't want, and it can just be arbitrary. It's tough.
Yeah, kind of the point Eric made earlier is establishing that inker penciler relationship. But if you're doing, like you said, a pickup book where it's the one time you're going to ink that inker, the penciler, it's your first time inking him, you don't know how far you can go.
Yeah. Jimmy, do you have a dog barking? Somebody?
Yes, that's my
and it's fine. Don't get me wrong. I've got dogs, and I'm worried they're outside barking. So because we don't have a fence, so if they're out there, I was thinking, need to run out there and get them before they run away. Okay, we're good.
Well, now that we have a house, we can get all the animals that we want, and I've just discovered my wife is Dr. Doolittle. We adopted a pit bull. We bought a bulldog. That's the one that's barking. He barks. Our pit bull doesn't bark at all. She and my wife wanted another pit bull, so we got one that's mixed with a bull mastiff. Just giant dogs. So I'm in my neck in dog poop everywhere.
Fun. Yeah. It's part of dogs and horses.
So right here, this is something that I love about Dave's work, is that Dave does this this thing right here. If you guys look at this thing, there is a beveled thing on top of this hood, so it kind of comes up like this. And I like that you draw light right here, and what you do is you break that line in the light, and then you've got some cast shadow like right here on this side of it. So you put this thick line right here, but then I love that you consider these little folds right here that are kind of going like this. So you don't do a straight line, which then, really flattens it out. You're putting in these little like bumps in this on one side that the cast shadow goes. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is your artwork, Dave. So if I'm interpreting it wrong.
No, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I've had that kind of thing inked before where it just gets obliterated. So, and this is again where, working with somebody that really knows what they're doing, it makes such a big difference because you know exactly what I'm trying to get with that stuff. And we've never had that conversation where I said, this is what I'm trying to do. And, best people really can intuit that stuff pretty well, which is always nice.
Yeah, and to be honest, you've always been so relaxed that sometimes you go, oh my God, does Dave really like this? Or he hasn't said anything. And, and really to be honest, this is the most vocal I've ever heard you be about my inks was on the past stream and this stream. And
my default position is to keep my mouth shut if I like it. I figure if it's working, I'm not going to mess with it. The only time I would say something is if I, don't like something. And I'm not shy about saying, I don't like to interfere, and I really try to not do that. But if there's something I really don't like, I will absolutely say something. You have to. It's not a collaboration if you're not being honest about, from both the penciler and the inker and the colorist too. And we had Peter Steigerwald coloring, and he knocked out some of my inking on the figure and pushed it way back, and I thought it looked great. And that's something that can be a discussion. I could have had a real problem with it, and he's very easy to work with, so I'm sure he would have changed it, but it looked really good. So but that stuff is always a.
Talking about another inker, Adelso Corona's in here.
Oh, great!
Yeah, welcome to the stream.
Thank you so much for coming.
He inks over Brett Booth.
Yeah, beautiful stuff all the way around.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. We chat a lot.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
And actually, you can see some of his inks right there in the picture.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very cool to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's not only is it intimidating to be inking your work, Dave, especially live in front of you, but it's also knowing all the professionals that are out there in the audience that are watching your stream.
It's very humbling having some really incredible professional working artists come by.
Oh, and that's right. Adelso got nominated for Inkwell. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well deserved.
Yeah, it must be awesome because I don't even know what that is. Nobody's ever mentioned that to me. I never heard of it.
The Inkwell Awards, really? Come on.
I'm just kidding. I'm just saying that for the audience,
Oh, okay.
so that right. For those that don't know what that is out there. But yeah, that is an awesome thing, I think. Yeah. And then I like here how in your work on one side right here with this hood, it's casting an overshadow onto his face on this side, but on this side you've broken up the lines like this, like it gets darker right here and light over there. So I'm gonna keep that in the inks.
Arachnon 47 says, question for Jimmy: what if a pencil has a style that only they can accurately portray with inks, whether they are super high contrast, such as Mike Mignola? Does that come up often? Do you work with the artists that have a really, really definitive style, like Mike Mignola? And is that something that comes up often, or do you normally get to interpret?
I have worked so hard to learn to imitate artists because I wanted to draw like everybody when I started drawing, that I can now ink over their work and pretty much figure out how to do what they're doing to imitate it. That's kind of what inking is at sometimes. It's kind of a mimic of their style, but it's never going to be exactly theirs because it's not their hand, it's mine. And my hand won't move exactly like theirs no matter how much I try.
See, what you're doing right now always kind of gives me hives a little bit. I always hate it, but I love it. And you've actually been doing this a few times. And I want to say Sandra Hope has done that kind of thing too, where I intend a hard shadow there. I never generally do shadows cast with line. It's always hard. And I loved how she opened that up. And I really, really loved how you did some of that stuff on the last thing you did. And I love how that looks great to me. I think it looks really, but I'm just watching you start to do it. I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't. And then I'm like, okay, it worked. It looks great. I love it. So sorry.
No, I was even going to bring in these lines like this to connect, just to push the contrast of created gradation in that little fade.
Now it's ruined.
Is it really? Okay. I don't know. But you got me earlier too. Dave, you don't understand. Dave jokes with me a lot, but he does this. Oh yeah, now we're canceling the stream. And I go, oh man, really? He's like, yeah, because
I called Jimmy and he said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I said, it means we'll be maybe 5 minutes early. We just forget it. Let's just cancel. And I thought, I'm being so absurd that you would know that I was kidding. And then I realized, wait a minute, you're taking me seriously.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, but we're 5 minutes early and you still want to cancel it? And yeah, even my wife, you even got Anna. Anna was like, but
Yeah.
this is Moon Knight. She's like, we watch Moon Knight. I want to see this stream.
Yeah, sorry, Anna. I apologize. Color with Kurt says, I found that people that truly want to work and get better are the people that come to comic streams, at least with mine. Yeah. And that's why I watch. And I find even if it's not directly the kind of job that I'm doing, I just learn so much. And, getting in the head of a colorist for me, I think is really helpful too. Aside from just learning things that help with other things, because so much stuff that you learn is related. Learning what a colorist looks for and the kind of thought process can make it easier to collaborate too.
Your painting streams, when you guys first started, I went, oh man, I don't paint. Now I want to paint with acrylics just because I've been watching you guys. That you guys make it look so easy that I know that, when I first start, I know I'm going to be just mad at those acrylics, but I want to do it. You guys have got me out of my box of just, ink and comic book, this particular medium, Yeah. So I think watching streams, even if, like you said, like even if you don't plan on coloring, even if you don't plan on inking, it'll get you to see art and art mediums outside of your comfort zone.
Andrew Dollhouse says, Sandra and Danny Mickey do it a lot. It looks cool when they do it. But I don't know what that's in reference to. So,
Oh, that fade little thing, those breaking up the black.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Yeah, talking about my mind going blank. That's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. Danny actually doesn't do it much with me just because we talked really when we first started working together, and I said, I really don't like that. I really don't like white lines around a figure. I like things to fade into dark instead of being outlined. And so he stayed away from those two things. And I said, anything, whatever else you want to do, like, go nuts. It doesn't matter. And so that's one place where he really never experimented much. And it's something, we really should have talked about maybe and said, hey, let's revisit some of those things and maybe try some of those things. But I felt like we had a style that I loved what he was doing and it just worked. And so it's always my motto. If it's working, I keep my mouth shut. So
I loved it. And I am influenced by what he did over your work. I really like it. I love what Joe Weems was doing. I like a lot of inkers you've had, Bat, all these guys. And I each time I ink your work, I go, oh, I want to do this like what they did. But then I tell myself, no, be yourself. Just do what comes natural, And I find that works best. But I will always be influenced by those inkers, man. You've had some of the best inkers in the industry.
Oh, I've been incredibly fortunate. I got to work with Scott Williams a little bit, Richard Friend, Danny Mickey, Bat, Joe Weems. Joe Weems actually very influential on my style early on. I learned a lot from him. And Jonathan actually, and you know what? Let me see if I can. Here, I'm gonna put this up here because Jonathan Glapian, a phenomenal inker that I was able to work with for a little while. He was incredible. All brush, beautifully done. He said you should try to get Jonathan Glapian for an acrylic stream. He's doing some awesome stuff lately in that medium, and I did not know that, so I need to check that out.
Yeah, he's Greg Capullo's inker.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, yeah, Greg Capullo's inker. So, very, very good.
Yeah, he's Jonathan's super talented guy. I actually got to meet him at a convention. He and his wife. I got to talk to them, and he gave me Ben Abernathy's contact information back when Ben was the. He said, "Hey, your inks look great. You should send it to Ben." And I said, "Oh, awesome!" And I got so scared, I never did.
Andrew Dahl said, "Love what Scott Hanna did on Wonder Woman." I worked with Scott Hanna for a while on Wonder Woman, and he's an incredible inker. Very gestural when it needs it, very clean when it needs it, and he added a lot to the pencils. He was very, very good. So yeah, I've been really fortunate with jokers.
Yeah, Sandra Hope.
Yep. Did I not say Sandra? See? Yeah.
Victor Yamas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Victor. Yeah.
Who's no longer, I think, in the industry, but I thought
he passed away several years ago, unfortunately.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. He was so talented. To be honest, he's also an influence on my work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
you know what I have to say? I could see that actually. He had a really crisp, angular, kind of triangular style.
Yeah.
And very bold. Yeah, it was a real shame. And he was a very funny guy. He was a good friend.
Wow, man, we have lost so many artists. We were just talking to Neal Adams earlier, but there have been so many other young artists that have we've lost early in their careers.
Yeah,
and that's
Nick Manabat for me is one that always kills me. He was an image artist, and he did some absolutely amazing stuff. And he was very influential on the whole Top Cow style. Actually, Joe Benitez was very good friends with him, and he was doing a H.R. Giger tech kind of a thing and mixing that into his comic work. And so that really influenced what Joe was doing with Weapon Zero. And that really influenced what Mike Turner was doing with Witchblade. And once Mike did it in Witchblade, it just blew up and it became kind of the whole Top Cow style. So yeah, he was an absolute genius, and he passed away. I think he was 21. Very
wow, he was still a kid.
Yeah.
There's been so many artists, that I hear about. Mike Wieringo. We lost Mike Wieringo.
Yes. Yeah.
And I go, man, that guy was an amazing artist, and I think he brought in a very unique style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without Mike Wieringo, we wouldn't have had guys like Joe Madureira and Humberto Ramos and all those guys. I think.
Yeah.
Because I think he made that cartoon style like mainstream. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, he was doing Fantastic Four for quite a while, amazingly. I think I was only able to meet him once, but he was a really nice guy, and I know a lot of artists that knew him well.
One thing I've always wanted to ask or mention was, you got to work at Top Cow in a studio. I remember I was, and like many people out there, I was by myself drawing, and I had to learn things from books or whatever you guys published in those image fan things. But at Top Cow, did artists ever show each other, okay, say, this is my favorite artist, and bring a book of like Massimo Shiro or
all the time?
In the studio?
Yeah. All the time. Yeah.
Wow. And because, I remember when I started inking, I didn't know what a croco was. I started with repeatographs and trying to emulate what Scott Williams was doing with the repeatograph. And I thought, man, had I ever had that opportunity to be in the studio back then, where would my inks have been? Maybe they would have been at this level faster.
Yeah.
Would you contribute that? I mean, your growth is because of working in a studio?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's like super powered growth. Anytime you can get into an artistic community with other artists and share notes, you're always going to grow much faster.
Wow. And today that's a studio is equivalent to a live stream today, where.
What, a studio is still kind of better, truthfully. I mean, I want to say like a live stream is, just as good because we're doing a live stream, but being able to bring your own work and work alongside, back and forth, it's unbeatable. A live stream is very, very close, though, because you're watching the whole process. Now, in some ways, it's better. I worked with Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and J. Scott Campbell and so many phenomenal artists there when I first started. But I really couldn't just stand over their shoulder and watch them work the whole time. It would have got very creepy fast. So
that's the thing about me. I would have been creepy and not cared. I would have just stood over your shoulder, Mark's shoulder, everybody.
You're that guy.
With a plastic paper bag. Stroking their hair while they draw. Comey Mark's long hair that he had, Be like, yeah, guys. Yeah. You guys work beautifully. It's beautiful lines, Mark. It's beautiful work. You're gonna make that deadline, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be there to see that happen.
Oh man. So did your work get influenced because of the Top Cow environment, or did you go into Top Cow with that Top Cow style?
You realize I'm not the one being interviewed here, right?
This is stuff I want to know, man. I mean, I've always wanted to ask and pick your brain. We never get the opportunity here for me to get fan on you.
So what was the question?
Because it's creepy when you and I are just like hanging out, talking about, life, and I start fanboying on you. It gets weird, but I'm in the fanboy zone up here. I could be fanboy. It's not weird.
We don't just, this is the other thing about, having friends that are artists is you kind of don't talk about art as much as you just complain about your job, really, or just life. So, yeah.
Oh, we talk the business end of it. We always do that. We never talk the technique. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you go into Top Cow though with the Top Cow style, and that's why they picked you, or did you?
I did. I was mostly influenced by Mark Silvestri. Now I found that I couldn't pull it off ultimately in the end, and I really struggled. But Color with Kurt says the title has Jimmy's name. That means he's in charge. So
that's right. See, he gets it. He gets it over here. This is my moment here. I get to ask all the Dave Finch questions I've always wanted to ask, but was too scared to ask. So, so what I like too is like some of these little shapes that you draw, like in your thing. I can just draw these shapes with this lasso fill tool real quick, and I can get these little cool shapes in there. And sometimes they're happy accidents, and I go, oh, I like that. And then there are times when I want to clean them up. I go back over with my Crow Quill and add a holding line to it.
Do you put stabilization on your lasso fill, or do you just try to move as fast as you can?
I use stabilization on my lasso fill. If you look on the left side over here, all the way.
Okay. Oh wow.
It's a ball. Yeah, because I want to get the angular stuff. Gotcha. I'm heavily influenced by Dave Finch and the stuff that, like we said, Victor Yamas and Joe Weems. These guys had that really angular shapes like that, and I want to recreate that. So I've learned that I could do that with the lasso fill tool.
That alone makes me just want to try this right now.
Yeah,
that's
powerful.
You put in all those shapes in the beginning, and I still didn't really kind of infer that you could do what you're doing with it right now.
Well, I mean, you could just draw with this thing. Like I like this, like let's say it makes me think of just, how to work. You ever guys do that thing where you keep your pencil moving and you don't pick it up and you draw something,
Yeah, like the drawing from the right side of the brain or whatever that,
Yeah, and I play around with this, and just by myself, I start going, oh, what can I do with this thing? Let's draw some like hair, on the side of the head, or I play around with it and I go, oh, I've done this before because it's a quick exercise. And then when I'm inking something,
so when you ink something of mine and there's a weird tree all over it, I'll know why.
Exactly. Yeah, Jimmy was testing himself again, right side of the brain. Jimmy was going right side of the brain on that tree. Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, your work is, to me, it's all about shapes and form. I think, and this is just me, like observing. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. So people watching, this isn't stuff Dave said. This is my work. It's my interpretation.
Russick asks Jimmy, what will you do inside the moon crescent on his chest? All black or no? And actually, let's if you don't mind, don't do it black. Give it some kind of a texture, and let's try something different.
Yeah. All right. There are different things. Oh shoot. I do this sometimes. I don't push the button in all the way and it doesn't become the hand. So I do this a lot in my work. I drag the tool. All right. So like there are these cool little textures that you do right here. So if I want to keep this chest pad uniformed, I want it to look like a particular material that you've drawn on here. I'm going to, whatever I do here, it's going to be influenced by your line work that follows that same surface. So that would be my first impression, is to go, okay, we're going to break this up, but I don't want to do I don't want to go in there and do this with it. I have a multi-liner pen, and Travis Charest does a lot of these. Like, I don't want to go in there and just.
So a multi-liner is really, now for my drawing, I use a Micron. So it's just a thin pen that is a uniform thickness. It doesn't have a thick to thin at all. And I use those actually to draw in all of the initial lines for my inking.
Yeah, and actually, when I started as an inker, that was essentially what I was doing, and I was just keeping a flat pen, but I was actually drawing in the line weights like that, rather than using a tool that I could just, it was flexible and it can create it much faster. Yeah. But really, to be honest, I mean, there are some artists out there use tech pens that are amazing, like the guy in Brazil inking over Ivan Reyes. He uses tech pens.
Joe Prado.
Joe Prado.
And it's all tech pens. I know. I've talked to him about it. I could not believe it. But it was.
Man.
But he does. Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know how he does it. I just go, wow.
I don't know. And I've not seen him do it. I've talked to him a lot of time. But, again, when I talk to him, we're just talking and complaining about work. So,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we don't really get to all become, fanboys. Because I admire so many artists out there. A lot of my peers, I love their work, and I did that to Sandra Hope. She's so nice, though. I did that to Sandra a lot. Like on Twitter, we'd message back and forth about inking and just other stuff, and I would fanboy on her so much. I thought, oh, I gotta calm down, Sandra, let me comb your hair. Just kidding. I wasn't, but luckily I wasn't creepy. She's so nice too.
Yeah, that wouldn't be creepy at all.
Yeah. But I think she's worked in the boys club for so long. She knows, how to work with and go with the flow of the fanboy out there. The weirdos.
I'm sure.
So there's this kind of texture thing that you're doing here. Like, you've got some lines kind of thick, and yeah. I'm not. I mean, you know what you did. You know what you're doing here, but I mean, for those out there, I'm just kind of drawing these in real quick.
Now, my philosophy behind what I was doing there is, it's like a coarse linen sort of fabric. It's wraps, so I didn't want to do something that's really clean and smooth. So I just went with more of a broken up kind of a flat line and tried to make it a little more textural.
No, and it's awesome. I love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that theory that you just explained in this area. So if I look closely, you're able to add weight to your graphite, and it'll make a darker shape area. So if I follow like that shape in there, and then there's another square right there, and then here there are some.
I see. Okay, yeah,
like lines.
I scribbled it in.
You scribbled it in, yeah. So what if I were to just kind of follow that? And keep, those basic, like really darker shapes, and keep those more solid black, and how would that look? That's another way to find your way through it, and then just keep building from there. And then, like, you've got right here, you've got these lines that then create a gradient right here. Because I noticed where you started to go light pencil and then dark, heavier weight on your pencil when you started to create the that shading in there. So what if we did that? And this is sorry guys, I made the boo-boos happen. All right, here we go. All right, so I mean, just things like that. Like, there's things you could do. You could do all kinds of stuff with this. So I'm gonna do something like that. I'm gonna start playing with that in my head, and I'm just gonna kind of go with it and see what I come out with.
All right.
Because I don't know about you. Do you sometimes, when you're drawing, feel like there's some area where you don't really know, you don't have a technique for it, and you kind of just make up something on the fly over it?
Yes. I don't know. I don't really. What you're describing is not something that I consciously would do. But, and I find for me, when I don't know what I'm going to do with something, I start with line weights, and then I put in shadows where I know there's going to be a shadow, and then I try and connect it together. That's always my technique. Now, what I don't know is when you're working, and for all of you guys that are watching that draw, there are things that you do that you're not really thinking about consciously. So that I don't know. But when I struggle, I don't know that I really have the ability to do what you're doing right now. And it comes down to kind of what your skill set is. And for me, I have a really difficult time letting go and just trying something like what you're doing. It's always maybe a little more mechanical.
Well, I think too, I mean, to be fair, I have the benefit of undo. I mean, I'm doing this digitally.
And Henry Jemrick says, Jimmy, try some Zipatone.
I have a Zipatone brush.
I know it's not your thing. It's before your time. It's because he knows you're 25 years old.
That's right. That's right. I'm getting up there, man. I'm almost 30. So I had a conversation with my wife, and this is kind of a brag, but at the same time, it's also I'm making fun of her. So she said to me the other day, she looked really down, and I said, what's with that face? Like, why are you sad? You look sad. She said, I just realized in 3 years I'm going to be 30. And to those of us that are well above 30, it made me laugh. I laughed so hard. I try to be a supportive husband, but I laughed.
Rudolph Lum says, is there a reason why many comic artists don't have an ArtStation or DeviantArt account? Is it time to have an comics art website to go along with the two sites? How do you feel about that? I'm a little older. When ArtStation, especially, and when DeviantArt came around, I was already working. I certainly wasn't looking for work, and I didn't really see the point of doing that. I do Instagram though, which is very similar. So it's a tough one. So what do you think about maybe like a site where artists would be able to put up almost like a marketplace? I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know about for income, but I know for exposure, you need all the exposure that you can get. You need to get your work in front of as many eyes as possible. So for me, it was YouTube, and it brought me here to working with Dave Finch, which, to be honest, was not, no offense to any other pencilers out there, because I don't want to not work with other pencilers, but I want to be able to. I want to be able. See, I lost my train of thought. No, so for me, it was working with Dave Finch was my bucket list. That was the top of the list, And then from there, no offense, it doesn't mean Skilled of Artists in order. It's Mark Silvestri under that, and then. Only because I grew up with Dave Finch art. I didn't grow up with Mark Silvestri.
I am fully aware of the preferences of a lot of inkers that I've worked with, and they like different artists more, and I don't care if they do a great job, and we get all right,
No, but for me, really, you really are my favorite artist, and I'm being sincere. And
all right, stop it.
Top of my list. And so by going out and getting that exposure, by creating some type of DeviantArt page or YouTube, it got me to a point where I thought I would never be, and I got to do it so quickly, So yeah, I mean,
Color with Kurt says, yeah, DeviantArt isn't really it right now. Maybe it never was. I've been on there 18 years and never got a job offer, and that's a that's a statement.
I'm not saying go on DeviantArt, but I wouldn't, just because DeviantArt may not be the place right now, the in place, doesn't mean that it won't become one day. And I say, put it everywhere, even if it's not the place that's going to get you work for the big companies. But I'm sure it may have brought in Kurt some kind of work.
Yeah. I'm seeing, it looks like your Pitbull.
Oh yes, this is my wife's pit bull back here. This is my wife. This is Anna, and she said we are going to. I want another dog, and so we bought this dog from a breeder, and the father is the biggest dog, so big that I find I'm super nice to this puppy, even when he's bad, because someday that dog's gonna be bigger than me, and I want him to remember those kisses I used to give you, and I'm your friend.
And Eric, actually, did I hear right that you're going to get a dog?
Yeah, don't need Brooklyn over here, but yeah, we're thinking of getting her a puppy. Yeah, probably
So
a Boston Terrier.
That's what Meredith said today.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
A Boston Terrier?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very active though.
Yeah, got to find a. There's quite a few breeders here. We just gotta wait for the right moment.
And for those that don't know, I mean that's your daughter who is very, very young, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because she's done. I mean, an energetic dog, I think it's great for a small child who's energetic, but not for guys like me and Dave who are about to hit 30.
Right.
We slow down at that point. We need a dog that likes to just sit and watch YouTube videos. That's our speed. So I like here too. I look at you. You have these like this shape, kind of like this, and it kind of it looks like it's layered, and you have what to me looks like a thicker line shape, and then you do still a thinner kind of line there.
Well, it's got a metal piece, and then there's some wraps around it, and somebody was warning you to not make it look like a bagel, and wait a minute, it looks like a bagel in the pencils.
I was gonna say the cornucopia thing.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And I was gonna ask where I was headed. I was gonna ask you, like, did you want me to? I mean, because I know like some areas like I can stencil it or straighten it out, but it's not in the pencils. So I think I really want to stick with.
I figure just go with it, and because it's inset, so it ended up being a little bit like that, and hopefully with color that would I think color would sort that out. Hopefully,
yeah, color with Kirk. If this is something he does, like on the live stream, he's talented, man.
Color with Kirk says it's a croissant.
A croissant.
A croissant.
Yeah. No, I think I like it though. I don't think things should be so perfect in shape. I love the organic look of your work. I love things that are a little off, not perfect stenciled or perfection,
You look at that, we're good.
We got Kirk, man. We got Kirk. He's gonna back us up, man. He's oh man, if Kirk is coloring me, this is what I'm gonna do in the inks now. All right, we're done, guys. There it is, right there.
Oh my god.
He's gonna bail me out, man. I know he will. He's that good. He's that good. He can fix it, guys.
He'll just draw it all with color, no problem.
Yeah. Although I got some beef with Kirk though. I said, Kirk, let me send you my inks over that Spider-Man. He colored directly over your pencils. Kirk, you committed that what is that, sacrilegion, or what do we call that when you're blasphemy? Yeah, that was blasphemy, Kirk. It's in the Inker Bible.
There you go. Photoshop edit, fill white, done.
Came out.
No, he colored your Spider-Man pencils, and he made it darken the pencils. It still looked great. I was so mad as an inker, because then it hurts my argument. You should never do that. And then he makes it look good, and I go, oh damn it, I got an argument.
Yeah, he really did make it look true. It did look good.
Yeah, I was like, I even like it, so I'm not supposed to like it. So I know you've got there are these like shapes that are kind of all meeting like this, and then there's a texture over them, that you're doing. So up here, and this is I'm gonna be transparent with the audience out there watching. Sometimes I don't know what it is. Yeah. And when I don't know what something is, this is my rule to myself. trace it. And I follow what the penciler did, and I hope that it'll blend in enough with the rest of the art that no one will know that I didn't embellish it, or add clarity in there.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's all you can do,
So, but I think it works sometimes. I think it's a good rule to follow. And I bet you anything, even Danny Mickey, Scott Williams, like the great inkers, I bet you they find themselves doing that too. I bet they get in that spot, because I used to think you guys were the greatest people in the world, and you guys figured out everything about art. And as I get to know you and I get to know some of the other inkers, I go, you guys really didn't have this stuff all figured out?
Oh yeah, no, I've got complaints at least one time, more than one time, from basically every inker I've ever worked with, where they said, "Look, I have no idea what that was, so I did my best." And I'm like, "Yeah, fair enough." Okay. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do. When in doubt, trace it out.
In the office, Kano.
Yeah, that's it. When in doubt, trace it out. There you go. Who says that though? Who was the one that? Oh, Lance.
Yeah.
No.
Lance is
no.
Yeah, he's going to my office. He's saying, Jimmy, this is what I think of your inks, and I won't say what he was doing over there, but
aren't puppies fun?
I know these guys, and they're so cute when they do it.
Sure, they're cute. I'm not gonna say they're cute when they do that.
But if we could just do that puppy face, as husbands, we'd get away with so much, man.
So Jimmy, it's 11:51. I figure we'll run till 12.
Okay.
Because it's unfair to say, hey, ink this whole thing.
Right.
I know you're quite a bit faster than this, but it's difficult to do that and describe what you're doing and kind of veer off. But if you wouldn't mind, there are some really long render lines along his cape,
and
that kind of thing is something that I can't do. That I'm pointing as if you can see where I'm pointing.
Like some of
of
like
that stuff and
longer like that. Those.
Yes. So how did you do that? And they look perfect.
Well, what it is it's a technique even in traditional inking where you have your arm like this, you lock your elbow and you throw the line out like that. So your elbow's locked and you just kind of just throw the lines. Then the stabilization's there.
Your stabilization's way up as well there, right?
Yeah, and then the stabilization, if you're ever curious, my stabilization over there, just so that I can throw these long lines really fast and keep them pretty straight.
So is it at max, Jimmy, or is there a number associated with the stabilization?
The 12.
12.
Yeah.
How high can you go?
I think that's it. I'm all the way up there. That's 15. Oh, 15 was the final one. And if I bring it down a little bit, then it's 6. So yeah, I had it almost all the way up. I had it at 12. So 15 was the highest. But here's another thing. So if you don't have the that muscle memory to throw that line, or you're not comfortable with the pen tool yet, here is a ruler there that you can use. So if you go click on your ruler, and under the sub tool, I'm gonna look for a linear ruler that's up on the top left of your screen. You can see where I'm kind of clicking the buttons.
Ruler, curve ruler, yeah.
And then there are down here, there are the choices you can pick. And so I pick I guess that's a quadrant Bezier. I've never read it. I just always.
So Bezier curve.
Yeah, and you pick that, the Bezier curve. And so some of the things you can do with it, I went off of it, sorry. What you can do is you can click and drag one point to another, and then you have to bend the ruler however you want to do it. The problem with this is that it's not as organic as your pencils. But with the Bezier ruler that's I've now laid down right there, right here, is that I'm going to make it, if you look up top, you can't see this because I didn't bring down that other bar. It stayed on my main monitor. But you always want to make sure that it snaps to ruler. You want to make sure snap to ruler. It's at the top of the bar up here, but it's missing that on this in StreamYard here. So what I can do then is, because it snaps to ruler, I can put my pen pressure on it and choose if I want my lines to be able to then create a line weight variation in there.
You can make a perfect curve line all the way from the top of a page to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Perfect curve page with it. But the things that I love about your work is that your work kind of has this like organic kind of, kind of like, messy, organic, not perfect. And I can't achieve that if I use the ruler, but sometimes I can fake it if I use the ruler and I threw that line like that, and then I use the ruler to clean up the rest of it. I can still kind of, or if I shift the line on mine, I can recreate some of the lines you do with your pencils by making two rulers like this, one ruler there, and then I throw the line, and then I command grab it, shift it just a little bit by dragging it, and then I just go up. Oops, sorry, I'm all over the place. I meant to rotate. Okay, and then I just drag it up partially, and I remember in your line work, you have these kind of like lines that, kind of a square and then a line, and then you kind of do a little dot thing at the end.
Totally stolen from Mark Silvestri.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he was going through a period where he was doing that, trying to break things up a little bit, and I loved it. I took it. It was probably 1995, a long time ago, and I've been doing it ever since.
And to be honest, I'm now taking it from you. I love it. It stood out to me, and I'm able to recreate it in ink because I use that whenever I draw. I didn't know it came from Mark. That is, see, I love that. I love to find, like, go, the archaeology we were talking about, and try to find that dig that we were talking about. But so here, some of the shorter lines of what I think here happens is I noticed you got dark and then you got these lines. So I think in my head that maybe what you're doing, the pencil was doing, is creating more of a fade in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because I can't get a thick to thin with the pencil naturally, I have to do it with line weight. And the less time that I have, the less likely I am to do that properly. So, yeah, I would say, I want to say that's what I was thinking. Truthfully, I have no idea. I mean, this picture was kind of running behind, and Meredith was getting impatient, so I lost track of anything other than just trying to get it done. But I think that would work best.
And the thing too about an inker is a lot of it is guessing, interpretation, what they were trying to do and trying to figure out. But being as familiar with your work as I am, plus I'm heavily influenced by your artwork. So to me, it's there are some areas where I can kind of remember what you've done in your work in the past, and I go, I'll just kind of stay within that.
Yep.
In there. Yeah. Did you want me to end here, or anything else you guys want me to? Is there any questions, or what should we? What would you like to do next?
Actually, I think we're gonna wrap it up. It's midnight, so I've got to go feed the sheep. Actually,
no, it's moon night. No, I'm just kidding.
It's
that joke,
right? Yeah. Mayat Noong would like to say that David looks like he's thinking about something in a comic with a reflection of the paintings behind him. Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, so I feel like we covered a lot of ground. It really interesting for me to see, exactly what brush you're using, and kind of just to see it in isolation and see how it behaves. Yeah, I think I learned a lot. Yeah, I love how it's coming together. It's got so much character to it. It's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing it finished.
Definitely.
You're gonna finish it, right?
Oh yeah, man. To be honest, I love your work so much that I find myself at times, even when it's not an assignment, I grab something off online and I just ink it because I love it, and I learn a lot from like all these little things that you do in your work. that I go, oh, he did this so simply with just a shape, and it looks so good.
Oh,
You know,
thank you. You know what? There's no better way to learn than doing studies. Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's looking great so far. Eric, did you have any other?
Yeah, it looks good. Definitely learned some neat tips and tricks. So definitely gonna
and the thing
absorb all of
too,
that.
and the thing I think is that you shouldn't look at it as the question of, you know, is traditional versus digital. I think you should look at it as another tool. That
Well, and this is a big reason why I wanted to do this. I wanted to cover all the technical stuff. It's very important because if you're going to do this and you're going to do it the way that you're doing this here, you need to know that stuff, and it's really valuable information. But I think it's really important to, yeah, absolutely point out that what you're doing here, you could do with traditional tools, and uh, it's and get the exact same effect. As a matter of fact, I actually can't tell if you've inked something traditionally or digitally. You know, it emulates the tools so well. So I thought this would be a really great stream. It has been great. It's been a lot of fun too. It's always fun having you, and hopefully we can do this again, you know, before too long.
Yeah, that, you know, I always love, I mean, I love watching your streams, and the fact that you've had so many talented artists on here, and your library is such a great library of painters, artists, and so many great guests. And then you've got a great host. I finally get to be part of it. So yeah, any opportunity to come back and be a part of it again, I won't pass it up.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you, Eric, and thank you everyone for coming and watching and giving us all your great questions and comments. I think this one was a ton of fun. I could have just sat and watched this thing get inked, you know, even without talking. But I feel like I think we learned a lot from that one. I'm rambling. Sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
No, so absolutely. I definitely learned a lot. Thanks, Jimmy. It was great.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate. I watch you guys all the time, and now I'm like, I get to be up there with you guys. So, and you know me, I go in the rabbit hole. I derail a whole lot, and you guys were great. Thank you guys for.
That's what keeps it fun. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that's it for this one. Hopefully when it's finished, you can. I scanned the pencils. I need to put those up too on the community page, and it'd be great to get the inks to put them on the community page if you wouldn't mind once it's finished.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I think I'm falling asleep here.
Well, it's really late your time, and thank you. Your audience and the viewers are so amazing, and thank you so much to everybody for your support for going out and purchasing these brushes. I really, you guys, you know, spending your money, your hard-earned money on this means a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much again. And thank you to all of you watching. I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, great weekend. And I'll see you guys on Monday. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.